Yo, what's going on, everybody? Excuse me. Hold on, let me just grab something real quick. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Just kind of throwing on some stuff that fits with the theme for tonight here, or at least as old as I can get, I should say.
I love it. What up? What up? What up, Big John? What's good, man? How you doing tonight?
Ooh, I'm doing good. How about you?
I can't complain, man. Running on been up since 5 a.m. So keeping this marathon going.
Oh, 5 a.m. I'm guessing 5 a.m. Pacific then?
Yeah. I actually I work at 8 in the morning, but I go sometimes when I wake up early, I'll go to the gym before I go to work.
Nice.
I'll work out a little bit, then go to work. So shout outs to the 3 people here. If you guys are tuning in for the very first time, welcome to the live stream. I do these live streams every Wednesdays from 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your guy Rez. Welcome to the channel. I basically talk about everything on my channel, pretty much what I dabble myself with. If you look at my channel, if you watch the channel, I do a lot of jersey stuff, do a lot of sneaker stuff, a lot of toy stuff, collectibles, and just basically what my life is, man. I try to put my life as much as I can on my YouTube channel. And these live streams are a great way to interact with you guys, the audience that you see here with me, side by side on my screen. Sixburg64 is what's up, man? How's it going tonight? Thank you for tuning in this weekend. I was gonna say weekend, but this week. Hope everybody's doing well out there. It's holiday season, so I know Christmas is around the corner. It's getting a little chilly out here in Cali, but I'm pretty sure it's even colder out where you're at. And was it Minnesota?
Well, technically Iowa, but yes, I live on the Minnesota border, so yeah, it's so cold. Yeah.
It snows out there, right?
Yeah, well, in fact, I think tomorrow night or Friday we could get about 4 to 8 inches of snow around here or so.
Holy cow.
That's nothing, really.
So you guys are never in drought, huh? I would assume you guys are never.
No, actually, well, this last couple of years have been kind of dry.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, but thankfully, like I say, with it being like a really big farming and sort of rural community and stuff like that, they're usually pretty good at making sure that nothing bad happens, or if there's any, basically they're pretty good at making sure all the crops and stuff like that are taken care of.
Gotcha. So. Okay. All right, there's 4 people in here. Yo, King, what's good, man? So I'm gonna hop right to it, man. Today's topic is episode 21, the vintage community. I basically have been posting, or not posting. I've been browsing my social media, kind of just going through my daily routine, looking at what's new and current events and stuff. And I dabble myself a lot with different types of communities. I deal with the jersey community, I deal with the sneakerhead community, and I also dabble with the vintage community. So for those of you who are wondering what the vintage community is, it's basically a community of people who thrive on wearing older style, like original clothing, or just in general collecting something that is vintage, meaning the original. So the definition of vintage is interesting to me because it's defined by the number of years of an item be considered vintage. So let me pull up the actual definition.
Yeah, because I've always been kind of curious about that too. Because like, considering this is from like '98 and stuff like that, would that be considered vintage? Or I mean, it's like, because vintage, for me has always been a little subjective. Then again, I've never really looked up the encyclopedia's definition here, but for me, this would be vintage because, like I say, this is sort of the stuff that I remember kind of like first getting into and first kind of seeing. You know, like I say, '98 and the starter fitted too. I don't know how old that is, but
So
mid
just to,
'90s too.
yeah, just to read this here, it says that the word vintage literally means, quote, of age, end quote. With such an open meaning, there are many interpretations. Most antique dealers consider an item to be vintage if it is at least 40 years old. So, in the context of this blog date, vintage item will be made between 1918 and 1978. Now, this article is pretty, I think it's old. This article is 3 years old. So, I mean, to me,
Yeah.
vintage is something that is basically, I would say, anything from like the 90s below,
Mm-hmm.
vintage. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, well, it's already we're already 21 years from the. Basically, I just saw this on Facebook. 1979 to 2000 is like the same range that 2000 is to this present year, if you can
yeah,
believe that. Kind of tying the whole vintage thing in there. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
6 64. I have a pretty big 90s Coogee sweater collection. That's what's up. Yeah, I consider those vintage.
yeah.
Because I know Biggie Smalls made those really big, like back then, in the
Now,
90s.
do you ever have any like starter jackets or anything? Like starter coats?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
got two of them up in the closet currently. One's the Vikings and one's the Dolphins one. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, those starter jackets were so classic. Like where I'm from, and I don't know if it's like that over there, but I like, you don't have to be a sports fan to have a Charlotte Hornets starter jacket. Like
yeah.
those jackets were always so popular in my area, and I don't know
Well,
how.
like I said, around here it's more like the blue collar, hard working. So I almost feel bad wearing, like we really don't wear stuff like that per se, just because that stuff can very easily get ruined or destroyed, or just stuff varies in general. So,
Yeah,
but for the most part, I mean, like I say, I wear my Vikings. That's my winter coat that has been for about 5 years, I think, going
right.
on 6 years. So I've had that for a few years. And then I also just bought the Dolphins one around the same time. I really don't wear that one much because, well, yeah, obviously, but
Yeah,
it's just like that. And it also doesn't quite fit as well as it used to. COVID hasn't been the kindest.
yeah. No,
Kind of shifting here too a little bit. This is a little bit stiffer of a starter authentic jersey than my purple moss is. Always has been. Then again, I think this is only maybe like the fourth or fifth time I've ever actually really worn it. So
got it. Okay, so basically, what prompted me to make this live? I was kind of delving into that earlier in this live here, but I go on Instagram a lot. So, by the way, guys, if you want to check me out on Instagram, you can as well. It's instagram.com/resurrection. But there was a post that I saw from this page here. His name, he goes by @vintage miner. That's MINER. And just to kind of read to you guys in here, it was saying, it was a post, one of those posts where you get to swipe and read every post, but it was saying 9 reasons new bootlegs are hurting the vintage market. So I'm assuming bootleg to the vintage community is something that's reprinted,
like almost like a Mitchell and Ness Moss jersey versus the actual starter or Puma or whatever.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I could be wrong. I invited, because I have a couple of vintage community heads that actually follow me. I was really hoping that they would join, but I don't know whether they want to join or not is entirely up to them. But I felt like somebody who's actually into that community like that would give a great perspective of it. And this guy, I think that this is a great topic because jerseys can be considered vintage. In my opinion. I'm talking about like original like jersey, whether it's original flannels, original champion jerseys, original starter, like all, I consider those vintage. So my question is, like, just to kind of read through this and kind of break down each point here. The first point was saying that the new boots, I'm assuming bootlegs, make our vintage less special in the marketplace. So this is a topic that I really want to try and break down this question to as much as I can, because for me, personally, right, like I would never well, I can't say never because I have, but like
Mhm.
I almost would never pay the substantial amount of money that I've seen for resale on some of these items. I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah.
I'm gonna be quite frank with you. I've seen vintage Utah Jazz jerseys that are going for like $700, eight
There,
hundred
yeah.
dollars.
There's something on eBay I saw. Oh god, this was probably a couple weeks or so ago. I want to say it was like an older starter jersey. Here, let me see if I can maybe quick pull it up here on my eBay.
Sure,
But it
sure.
was just like I saw it was like a signed authentic like a Bo Jackson type jersey. I don't think it was Bo, but 6 grand on eBay for
Nuts.
this thing. I'm
That's
like,
crazy, dude.
I think it was like a gamer, like a vintage like starter gamer that was signed, but still,
Yeah.
like at that point around here, you could buy like a fixer upper house. You could buy like a decent used car for that around here. You could
Right.
buy stuff like that, and I mean, case in point, like even most of my. I think the most expensive like jersey I paid for as far as like my old vintage ones was ironically enough my Randy Moss that I kind of have over in the rack over there. Not this one, the purple one. I got that like in early 2015. I paid a little over 100 for that. And now anymore, if you see a lot of these vintage starters, like especially the Vikings ones, you're talking about 150 to 200 easy. Moving on from that, and then of course the scalpers and stuff like that. I don't know what it's like because I know Jerry Rice jerseys, like the vintage starter Jerry Rice jerseys, or like the Wilson ones, like you're kind of selling. I've seen on there for at least $300. Like, and that's not even like in mint condition. I mean, I've seen some of those guys going for almost 500-600. I don't know if it's the same with you, but it's just like
I
I get
mean,
it. There's is the market for that stuff, but it's just like I could kind of like going back to that article you said too, though. It's just like the reason why Mitchell and Ness and places like that make that stuff is because, in my opinion, yeah, sure, it's still what like $300 for an authentic Mitchell and Ness, but if you actually were to find the
what up,
vintage
Yogi?
article all the time, you're probably talking double, if not triple that. Easy.
Yes. I'm trying to break down this question because I don't want to take this out of context or I don't want to
Yeah.
misinterpret it because it's saying here boots. I'm referring. So I'm assuming they're labeling it as like fake because see
Yeah.
there's a difference. There's a difference between fake bootleg Mitchell and Ness jerseys or whatever
Mm-hmm.
of the brand. But when it comes to like vintage T-shirts, for example, like I'm just gonna use band tees for an example because I'm really big into band music tees.
Mm-hmm.
So if
And those are quite
you see a Metallica
trendy too.
shirt, you see a Metallica shirt from their Ride the Lightning album, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that reprinted, like remade, being sold at retailers, authentic retailers, and then you see a vintage Ride the Lightning Metallica shirt, same prints or same design, same color shirt. The only difference is that it has the label vintage. That's selling for quadruple the price of what that shirt is. What are you going to go with?
Full, exactly.
I
That's
mean,
it's
and
one of those things where because I follow a lot of like thrifters on YouTube and stuff like that
yep,
too, where they actually go out there and like a lot of these times they'll find, like you say, like the authentic vintage shirts of various bands, of various
what up, what
teams,
up, what up?
of various whatever, and there's really not a big difference. So but like I say, it's no different than the Jersey community where to you and me, it's just like there's a big difference in the vintage starter Moss versus the Mitchell and S Moss. But to a casual guy, you know, they're obviously going to go for the cheaper version because So I,
Yeah, I,
it's just interesting with all that stuff.
it is, and I really want to try and understand it like a little more clearly because it's
Yeah,
saying
I
that
do too. Being a younger guy myself, kind of learning,
so
especially if you were to come up on something like that.
right. So I mean, like it says, just focusing back on this first one, it says that it makes our vintage less special in the marketplace. Like special in what way? Like special meaning that you're not gonna stand out amongst everyone else? Is it special because it brings a certain different feeling for you? I mean, I don't know what the end game is like
Yeah.
when it comes to what you're trying to achieve about it being special or less special than, because okay, I'm going to use a perfect example, another example about this. But let me go to the next point real quick. um so it says here, reason number 2, it says new boots makers offer a low quality cheap alternative to our vintage, kind of like Urban Outfitters. So for those of you who are wondering who or what Urban Outfitters is, it's a store. It's a store that they have, I don't know how many locations, but we have them out here, and it's kind of like a hipster slash uh like the tone of the t-shirts is kind of like a hipster slash street esque
Okay.
like fashion, if that makes any sense.
Like urban wear type of thing almost? Or
Yeah,
not
but
really?
kind of. So
Okay.
like some of the stuff that they sell, they're obviously they sell stuff for both men and women, and I think kids as well. But like some of the stuff, just to focus on the men's stuff that they sell a lot of like vintage style shirts. So they'll sell stuff of like you know, Nas, the rapper Nas, but they'll have like a print from his like old album, like, from the 90s and like 2000s and stuff. And it'll look old, it'll look vintage, I should say, because they'll give it that like
Distressed, cracking almost look.
exactly. So they sell a lot of t-shirts like that. So they're modern t-shirts, but with that vintage cracked look, like you said. So, just kind of breaking it down, they obviously the quality is different than the original stuff because the
And the
fits
fabric and all that stuff, yeah.
fabrics are different, the print might be slightly different, but it's replicating something that was produced, you know 20-30 years ago, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so they're saying that it's a cheaper alternative to vintage. So like I don't know about you, but like for me, like I'm all about trying to find deals, man. Like I'm not trying to pay an arm and a leg to be wearing a vintage 1989 like Metallica World
Yeah.
Tour shirt. I keep using Metallica because that's like I was wearing my Metallica shirt earlier, but like
Yeah.
it's just like I wouldn't spend, personally for me, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm trying to understand like why a person would spend X amount of dollars on a shirt that's old, that has holes, that might not even be that wearable for as long as you plan to wear it, as opposed to buying something that just got released, but it's just modern. Like it's more of a modern look.
But you want to know what that kind of reminds me of too? Like how what you're saying there again, kind of like tying like all of this together, sort of reminds me of like the Jersey game and stuff like that too. It's just like the same people are probably asked the same thing, like, well, why would you go out there and spend $300 or $400 on a Randy Moss rookie jersey versus,
Yeah.
just getting like a reprinted Mitchell and S for half the price, or or whatever. But again, I think what it comes down to with stuff like that is, again, it's the feeling. It may have to do with like memories too. Like certain people might, like who were around during that time when those were new, going out to those concerts, maybe
Right.
having that sort of, memories, flashbacks, whatever you want to say there, because it's just like, it's probably no different than when you throw on like a vintage, even like an early day Reebok or something along those lines too. Like, wearing that, having memories of you wearing that, watching like, let's say Jeff Garcia, or, like the early 2000s, late 90s or whatever, it probably brings them back to a time that makes them feel special or makes them feel it's no different than like any other collecting community out there. The vintage community is no different than the sneaker communities, no different than the jersey communities, no different than the classic car community. There's just a lot of different things that not a lot of people understand. And then like with some collectors and like some, I guess, collection groups and like people like that, you know, some of these are a little bit harder to understand or maybe like to get into because like they're more secret about it, or it's
Yeah.
just it again, like I say, it's no different than in the Jersey community. I think it's just more like we don't understand, or you know, there's a deeper meaning behind what's going on versus just, you know, a Metallica shirt or a System of a Down shirt or old school Nirvana or old school Guns N' Roses, you know, bands like that, you know, like when you think of like vintage shirts, you usually think of a lot of the vintage rock, vintage rap, you know, and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying, and that's a good example. That's a great example actually, because it breaks it down for us, like me as a Jersey head. Um, just gonna highlight this comment real quick that Mike said. He said vintage is a collo
colloquialism.
collo right. I guess, sorry, I'm gonna have like a tongue twister surrounded.
No, that's fine. There's a lot of
Colloquialism.
words like that that are hard to understand. Yeah.
Is commonly used to refer to all old styles of clothing. A generally accepted industry standard is that items are made between 20 years and 100 years. Okay, so then, yeah, starters would be considered vintage, right? Because those came out in what, like the 80s? I think some of them.
Early 90s, I think,
Early
is
90s?
technically because I know Wilson, like if you have an old Wilson, yeah, Wilson was more like the early 90s, late 80s, from what I understand. Even
Okay.
like Champion was an old school one too. Rawlings, you know,
Right.
brands like that. But I mean, the pro line days, you know, like when you had, you know, like the teams that, you know, the old school Nikes, starters, Reeboks,
Right.
Adidas, you know, stuff like that. And heck, even some of the newer equipment, you know, like the old equipment tag NFL jerseys from like 2002, they're going to be vintage here in just a couple of years as well. You know, the jerseys that you could go into Ross's literally 5 years ago for like $10, you know, authentic ones. And, you know, so it's just, yeah.
You said years ago are considered vintage if they clearly reflect the styles and trends of the era they represent. So yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of styles that I'm seeing. So it's interesting you bring that up, Mike, because going to my point that I was going to mention earlier. So like I don't know if you guys know, but like Mitchell and Ness, they produce a lot of hats, a lot of snapbacks that resemble old styles from. I'm talking about like sports specialties, starter, you know, a lot of those older hatwear brands that were making stuff in the 80s and 90s.
Well, case in point,
is
you know, like the old script fonts like this and
exactly.
stuff like that, you know.
I would pull out a hat right now, but it's under my bin, so I don't think I got. But I have a couple of vintage hats. Hold on, I got to guess here. Uh-oh, where did he go? Did we lose him? I think he left.
Oh, whoops.
Sorry. It was Throwback King, but Snacks, man, if you want to come back in, just tap the link again. My bad. I don't know if I removed you. But anyways, let me read some of these comments here. It says buying vinyls is probably my vintage fetish. Vinyls are dope for sure. My girl is very huge into vinyls. Not necessarily the vintage vinyls, but she prefers to listen to vinyls over like CDs and stuff like that. Champion has been around since 1919. Champion is another one, man. I can't tell you how many times I go to my local mall and I'm seeing Champion brand being sold at like Foot Locker for like $60 for like a hoodie.
And you go to Walmart and you literally get the same style for like 20.
Exactly. I was at my local Marshalls.
Even Starter, you know, like just
it's crazy.
The Starter brand.
It's crazy.
The same way.
It's really crazy. So like my point, you know, like case point, like there's a lot of stuff now, like what's old is new.
Exactly.
The throwback jerseys, we all love them. I love them, you know, and we're still buying them. Even fast forward to today, 2021. Big Slim says, "I feel old. I lived that era." You know what, though, Slim? That's dope. Hey, maybe if you can hop on, maybe you can explain it because you actually lived and wore it when that stuff was currently being put out.
And like I say, I'm only 27, so I'm more like the early Reebok era from like 2002 on and stuff like that, where, you know, as opposed to like someone who lived during this era, you know, like in their 90s, 80s, even, you know, and stuff like that. So, howdy.
What up?
What's going on?
Chilling, man. I don't work tomorrow, so I'm with you tonight.
All right, bro. Appreciate
What we
that.
talking about? Vintage? What we talking about? When it comes to vintage, we talking
So we talking about the vintage community. Basically, there's this post here on Instagram that I saved because I wanted to talk about it in tonight's live. But it's pretty much 9 reasons why I guess they're referring it to bootlegs are hurting the vintage market. So I don't think it's like necessarily like bootlegs like fakes, but it's more so like reproductions of brands replicating older styles. So, like obviously a Mitchell and Ness jersey. I'm gonna use Mitchell and Ness as a jersey because we're all Jersey heads here. But like using a Mitchell and Ness jersey that's
versus the
dropping
starter.
versus the like original starter or original champion jerseys. Like there seems to be this like negative connotation with people who rock re-release stuff of stuff that was originally dropped by a different brand in the like the 80s or 90s. So just to kind of go through these points here, hold up. What up, Big John?
Hey, what's up, man?
What up, what up, what up? I don't know if you heard me talking, but I was going over this topic tonight about the vintage community, man. But I'm glad you're here, dude. So maybe you could provide some insight on this because I'm trying to get as much like I'm not knocking nobody in the vintage community. I have vintage stuff myself, but there's a lot of things that I don't quite understand that I would like to understand. But let me move on to the third point because there's 9 reasons why this article is emphasizing this. So it says reason number 3 says the boots are bringing the value of many vintage shirts down by competing. So they're referring to shirts. So vintage shirts down by competing with them on the same rack. So obviously, you go to a store, you see an original jersey of, I don't know, I'm going to use Allen Iverson as an example since Snacks isn't here. His Sixers jersey, you see his original rookie jersey that's there on the rack made by Champion. Then you see another one, and you see another one, a Mitchell and Ness one, but obviously the Champion jerseys, we all know they fit smaller. I mean, what would you get? Like, which one would you pick?
the one that fits me.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was the newer one, which would be probably the Mitchell and Ness one, because those older Champion jerseys, for you guys that don't know, they fit really small.
Mm-hmm.
But so obviously there's people in the vintage community where they're like, fuck Mitchell and Ness, fuck that. I'm gonna go with the original.
But you know what's the funny part about that? The vintage, the vintage, like I'm gonna put a quote. People complain about the vintage too because as you know, as a Jersey community, people complain if it's not gamer or game used, it's not original. Like those are the people that fucking like blow my mind because what's the odds of you getting a gamer from fucking unless you got money and time? You know what I'm saying? What's the odds of you getting an authentic on the court jersey? Everything we get is replicated. You know what I'm saying? Throughout the years, we need people like Mitchell and Ness to replicate these jerseys because one, we could get our desired size. You know what I'm saying? That's to me that's the biggest thing is our desired size, and not everybody's built for a vintage Champion size 44, which is like a common size. So, you know what I'm saying? I can speak for, for us. We're not going to fit a vintage 40 size 44. I'm going to bring up your raffle, your vintage Wilson Jerry Rice jersey, by the way, $20. Wait, what, 4 slots left?
3.
3 slots left. Awesome. I took a slot just to support. That's an amazing jersey. It's a vintage Wilson jersey. And I bet if it fits you a little bit better, it probably won't be a raffle right now. So it's just one of those things. It's great. It's awesome. It's great to have in your collection. But somebody that's 6'1", over 250 pounds, I can't fit a Wilson size 48. So we need, vintage is great. It's awesome, but it's for certain people in certain lanes.
Yeah, and
when it comes to the Jersey community.
Right. And again, like I kind of wish that we had somebody who was strictly like into vintage stuff, like quote unquote vintage, because this reason number 3 here, saying that they're bringing the value of many vintage shirts down by competing with them on the same rack. In my mind, I'm like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like what's wrong with a person trying to get that style and be able to rock it for an affordable price? Like, there's not, I mean, your average Joe is not going to spend $400, $500 on the t-shirt. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, to me, that's nuts. I understand. I mean, because then these same people might be like, oh, well, you know, people spend, what about you guys and who spend, you know, $700 or $1,000 on a gamer and stuff? And, you know, like, I don't do that, but I'm trying to get in the mindset of somebody who would do that, or somebody that did do that, and understand them. And yo, this is just like, this makes me like really, like, I'm just like really disappointed, because like I have so many people on my Instagram who are in the vintage community that follow me. They look at my stories every time. I get like hundreds of people that view my stories, and not a single person showed up tonight, man. That kind of hurts. I mean, shout outs to the loyal people in here right now, man. Like, you guys, I don't know, man. I'm digressing. I'm sorry, but it's just like,
no, I understand. Well, sometimes we know what I learned throughout the years, man. You got to focus on the people that are here and the people that are fucking with you now. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you spend too much energy and time on the people that are not here, you're taking away from the people that really mess with you, you know, really fuck with you. That's my advice. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Jake's here, Big John's here, I'm here, the people in the chat are here to come see you, come see your show, see this conversation. And we can't keep that energy on people that are not here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure,
I
man.
agree.
It's just,
especially with all the negativity that's been going on over the last couple of years, you know, it seems like ever since this pandemic started, you kind of more understand the actual people that are there for you and try to more focus on stuff like that. I know, kind of getting away from this here, but it is also just kind of useful, you know, information too, and just like knowledgeable information to even maybe better understand the jersey community or better understand the sneaker community. So it, you know, it's just it's just everything has its place, I guess, for lack of a better term, or just everyone has their purpose and everyone has their niches, I guess, you know, but it's just always, you can always tell the people that are truly there for you.
Yeah, and Rez, I completely understand, because look, we have a community on Kings of Throwbacks that, and of course you have your YouTube page that have well over 1,000 people, but you don't get 1,000 likes. You know what I'm saying? We got over 5,000 people on Kings of Throwbacks, but you don't get 1,000 thumbs up on, or 1,000 comments. You know what I'm saying? You have the people that fuck with you on the low, people that just subscribe to support. You have different kind of levels of support. And I understand that, like, sometimes, like I said, you got all these thousands. I have thousands of fucking subscribers on YouTube too. All right, I'll probably get like 10 or 12 likes. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. That definitely puts stuff in perspective, man. It's not about the numbers, you know. But let me move on to this next point here. Reason number 4 is saying that the boots are confusing the market, and average buyers don't know which to get, so they get the cheaper option. This and then brings down the prices of our vintage. So again, you know, for me, as long as it's not fake, I'm cool. Like, I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see what's so bad about having something re-retroed or re-released, you know, or something. If it's officially licensed, I could care less. Now, there's a difference between supporting brands and supporting people who don't have rights to produce something of that brand, like replicating something like that. Like, that's where I have a problem with it, you know. And you know, it's just like, again, like I just don't understand like why this is such a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like it's just
I think it comes to people like they're purists, and they feel like like, I kind of get, like, for example, like your Dare t-shirt, right? Something you probably just bought, you saw it, thought was dope, and you bought it. Like, at Walmart, you go to Walmart, you see all these band tees and all this stuff that are like replicas of the original. It's crazy. You get that shit for like $6 at Walmart, whatever. But that same original tee that came out in 1987 goes for hundreds of dollars. and I understand that. But my thing, why the fuck the materials are ripped? But people are into that. We're into whatever we're into, but people are into. They're willing to spend $300 on an original Dare shirt if they can find it. So you know what I'm saying, and I get it. Kind of takes away from what they collect. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody's probably walking around with an original Dare shirt, and they're looking at you like, "Oh, my shit's original though." And you're probably saying, "But I paid $6 for mine. I ain't pay $150 for my shit."
Who's laughing now?
So, yeah, it's kind of like who has the last laugh type deal. But if they feel good because they have an original Dare shirt from 1987, that's awesome. Salutes to you. And there's other people in that community that would recognize, yo, that's an original Dare shirt. For us, we don't care because we're just not into it like that. But for us as Jersey heads, somebody tells me I got an original fucking Iverson Georgetown jersey. That's dope. That's fire. But in my head, I know I'm not capable of fucking even, size 48. I can't wear a size 48 Nike vintage from 1996. I can't wear it. You know what I'm saying? If I was a smaller size of shit, I'll probably be on that lane of the vintage. You know what I'm saying? I'll be happy. You know, I could wear vintage shit and fucking replicate that. You know, small guys got it good, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But us big guys, man.
True that.
You know, we gotta stick to our lane. We gotta stick to what we can wear.
Yep.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Big John.
Man, I can't tell you how many jerseys I really want to get, but I know I'm not going to fit into like the old champion Dennis Rodman jerseys. Man, I would love to have one, but I know I'm not going to fit into those 44s and 48s.
It's tough, man. Trust me. Like I've passed up on a lot of stuff, man, for great prices, like older stuff, and I can't pull the trigger because I can't fit in it.
Yeah, it's just like for me, like the old Wilson jerseys, like the old Wilson Pro lines from that day. Even a 52 fits more like a 48 or even maybe if you're lucky, a 50. But it's just like, it's kind of hard. But a lot of those jerseys are just so cool, and it's, it's stuff like that where it's just, yeah, like exactly what Big John said there, it's just like, which is why I think a lot of people, like who aren't in the vintage community, feel that way because it's like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, it's awesome, to have like an original Dare shirt or an original Metallica shirt or an original Randy Moss jersey or Brian Urlacher, 20 years down the line. But if you can't fit this stuff, then that's why the remakes are there, because if they're in bigger sizes, it's the same idea, it's the same concept, it's still legally licensed, but it's like a quarter of the price, and you can actually wear it and fit into it. Versus trying to fit, because we've all seen that out in the public. Like someone's wearing way too tight of pants or way too tight of a shirt, and it's just, not comfortable at all. It just looks like they're in pain, So I think that's probably what the big thing is for me with the vintage stuff too. Is it's just like it's difficult to find the balance there, But
No, I feel it. Yo, KBM, what up, man?
Man, what's good with y'all, man? Shit.
Thanks for putting in, bro.
Man, ain't shit, man. Ain't shit. Just getting off of work.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you coming on, man, regardless, bro.
Yeah,
he's a prime example of vintage. He's into the vintage.
Exactly. I was hoping you would have showed up.
See, 97 joint.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the sad part, hats like that don't fit my big ass head.
Man, same with me. I'm rocking a fitted starter here, but I can't wear the snap.
Sit
out.
What
am I talking about? I got a vintage hat right here.
Come on, man. Shit, you gonna make me bring some shit out, man. Like
nah. This ain't no battle, bro. I'm just saying.
No, not at all. I mean, since y'all bringing up the bitches shit and everything and all, like, man, it's one of the most dopest things ever in my life right now. So
like I'm glad you're in here, KBM, because I actually wanted to have somebody who's into the community like that, because the topic tonight is basically just talking about this post that I saved on my Instagram because I wanted to share it with everybody tonight here. But it's 9 reasons why bootlegs. I'm assuming they're referring to bootleg shirts, like the bootleg like rap tee style and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's like 9 reasons why bootlegs are hurting the vintage market. So just to kind of recap and skim right quick, the first reason said bootleg shirts make our vintage less special in the marketplace. Second reason was new boots makers offer a low quality, cheap alternative to our vintage, kind of like Urban Outfitters. Number 3 said new boots are bringing the value of many vintage shirts down by competing with them on the same rack. And then number 4 is new boots are confusing the market and average buyers don't know which to get, so they get the cheaper option. This and then brings down the prices of our vintage. So I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of those points. If not, we can move on to the next one. But I just want to get everybody's thoughts.
Oh, shit, I ain't know like it was like bootleg vintage shit. You know what I'm saying? I ain't know that shit at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm in shock.
You don't know what it is?
Man, hell no. Hey, you gotta put me on game on this one.
Nah, let me show you guys. So it's been a style that has been surfacing a lot lately. So basically, like, you ever go to like a game and you go like outside of the stadium, there's somebody out there selling t-shirts, you know, not officially licensed. It's like
the gas station shirts and shit.
Like those. So like I'm gonna use this as an example right here, because this is the first thing that popped up. But this Big Pun shirt, this is a shirt right here that I don't know if it's officially licensed, but somebody designed it.
Right. Like, definitely not licensed.
It's definitely not licensed. So like these tees are like getting real big now. So here's another one of Kanye West from his Graduation album.
Oh yeah. I know. Now I know what you're talking about.
So those they call those the bootleg tees, because bootleg meaning they weren't officially licensed shirts back then.
Right.
But now you're having like, this is like the current trend of fashion right now, and like with everybody that's wearing this stuff. So it's like you have all these brands and stores now that are selling these bootleg tees of just random stuff. Like the other day I saw one of the Pillsbury Doughboy from Pillsbury, and it was just like a bootleg style of it. And these shirts were like, I don't know if they sold out, but I mean they were selling, obviously because they had them on the market. But like, people now are overpricing these shirts for like $40 a t-shirt, $50 a t-shirt. I'm gonna use DMX as another example, because I was at my local mall the other day. Rest in peace to DMX, but like his shirts were being sold with that bootleg style in almost every store that I went into. And like, people are complaining because they're like, oh, you never supported DMX when he was still alive.
Right.
This, you never bought his merch now, you're just mooching off. And just all sorts of different reasons.
Whoa, what? All that Kobe merch that popped out of nowhere.
Hell yeah.
Everybody had purple and gold with 24 and 8 something.
Man.
Like, people were profiting, people were making bootleg shit of that shit.
You don't know.
And I'm taking it to another level, because to me, there's so many things that I'm gonna just bring Mitchell and Ness up that they replicate that Starter brand came out with, like the Starter jackets. They're trying to replicate that. Just put the Mitchell and Ness. They're basically putting the Mitchell and Ness logo over the Starter logo. When they replicated that 1996 NBA draft hats, which is dope to me because that's something I could never find. I always wanted that Iverson Sixers draft hat, and they're only selling it at the store. Is dope. It's fire, but I wish I had that athletic logo. You know what I'm saying? But but to me, that's the closest thing I'm gonna get to that official hat.
Right.
Because I can only imagine what a 1996 76ers draft hat goes for.
Yeah, if you can find those old snapbacks, they're a couple $100 easy.
But I was just about to say, Jake said it right. Those are sports specialty hats or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They call them the laser snaps or whatever, which I'll be actually looking at, but their prices for them are so fucking high. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking,
especially if it's like old logos too, like typical Bucks hats. Good luck finding one of those for under a few $100.
Right. I mean, shit. The lowest you'll see is maybe $80, and the highest is like $300-400, man. Like how they are is just like, man. And I'm on 100%. Don't get me wrong.
That's the crazy
I
thing
just
about
feel, like I know their official licensed NBA products, but they're bootlegging an original idea from another company and making it their own just because they have that NBA license. So they're taking that original design that another company made in 1996 and making it. To me, that's a form of bootlegging to me, because you're
Right.
taking a design that belonged to somebody else and you just put it because you own that NBA license, you get to just do whatever the fuck you want. You know
So
what
I'm
I'm
gonna
saying?
say
They're making the starter
plagiarism.
jackets exactly how they used to be, but they're just putting that Mitchell and Ness logo on the sleeve.
And Mitchell
So
Ness is real
I
famous.
feel like Mitchell and Ness is doing a level of bootlegging, but they have a license to do it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? To me, it's
That's like
still yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's like the script Metro and Ness hats. We all know those are sports specialty script hats from like the 80s and the 90s or whatever. So you can see personally like how it's made. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a certain font they use on the hat. So like I think the sports specialty hats are like the fonts are like smaller,
Yep.
but the Metro Ness script or whatever is a little bit bigger. So you'll know for sure which one is which. You know what I'm saying? Which I wish I had
As a consumer yourself that like loves vintage hats and have original hats from like the 90s All-Star, and you see Mitchell and Ness replicate that same hat that you have, that you probably spent good money on. How does that make you feel? I know it probably doesn't make you feel no type of way, but knowing that you have the original hat from that era and Mitchell and Ness is basically bootlegging that hat.
Well, to be honest, like with that, like it don't matter to me, but at the same time, it's like the original ones, like you'll have that special feeling compared to the Mitchell and Ness ones. You know what I'm saying? Like the vintage ones, they made different. They built different. Like they built super official compared to the Mitchell and Ness hats or whatever. But I feel it's a good thing that Mitchell and Ness has done like the 90 All-Star weekends had, even the 70s and the 80s. They did them, and I'm like, okay, this is the closest I can get to that type of hat compared to spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a All-Star weekend hat or just any type of vintage hat, period. You know what I'm saying? Like I got some examples, man, if y'all want to see it.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah,
Please.
I know your vintage hat is crazy, but do y'all feel like, I'm sorry, Rez, I don't mean to be asking the questions and shit. I know this is your show, man. I just feel like does Mitchell and Ness take away from vintage collectors? You know what I'm saying? Because you're right, it does bring the volume down, because as soon as that hat comes out, why the fuck am I gonna spend $100 on a vintage hat when I can just get the Mitchell and Ness version for $24.99? You know what I'm saying? So I can understand like how that feeling must be.
So I'm gonna give y'all some examples. This is 92. This is sports specialties all day or whatever. You can see by the logo, whatever. This is the real thing. Like how this hat is made, and like the feel of it.
Hold on, let me highlight it real quick.
It's all the way legit. You know what I'm saying? Like I got that the 93 one with the tag, whatever. You know what I'm saying? This the real plain James. You know what I'm saying? Compared to the Metro and Ness, which I bring out a couple, for example, the 97 one. You know what I'm saying? This hat is kind of hard to find for a good price, but at the same time, Metro and Ness, they did a thing with it. The 91, they did a thing with it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I can't like the difference or whatever. Like, it really didn't even matter to me when it comes to the All-Star weekend hats, but the other styles or whatever, it's like, okay, I'd rather have a regular script than a regular vintage script over a Mitchell Ness script, because man, how they did those hats then, it's like boom, you know, they put that motherfucker together. You know what I'm saying? Like I give one more example or whatever, like the 97, okay, 9701, this is both Mitchell and Ness hats or whatever. Fucking my 94 All-Star weekend collection hats. Boom. The start. This is from Logo 7. This is from Starter. You can see the tag right there. And this is from Sports Specialty. So you can see like the differences in how they make it or whatever. Like Mitchell and Ness can make certain hats and they could like how the logo look can be smaller compared to the actual vintage style. So, I mean, to each his own, but man,
I feel like I think the point of the conversation is if I'm looking at you and you're real proud of your shit, like with the tag and the hanging starter thing and all that stuff, and here comes me, regular old consumer, saying like that's just stupid. Why are you paying that much money for that? I could just go to MitchellNess.com and get the same
right.
hat. But the thing is, you as a vintage collector, you're like if you have that amazing fucking Wolves hat, I'm like, why the fuck am I gonna spend all that money for it? I bust out with the Mitchell Ness version of it. In your head, you're like, oh, my shit's vintage. I'm good. In my head, I don't give a fuck how much your shit vintage is. I got the same fucking hat for the lower price.
Yeah, Bull Sharks. Mitchell and Ness did remake the Shark Tooth, for instance.
Yeah, they did.
Fucked that up.
For instance, it's a Vancouver Grizzlies vintage. I mean, not vintage. Mitchell and Ness compared to the Bulls one. You see how things look. You see the similarities. You know what I'm saying? So
wait, so the Bulls is a vintage?
The Bulls is a vintage. This is from Logo 7. This is a Metro and Ness.
See what I'm saying though? Like obviously I could tell the difference now, but like for your average Joe, they're not gonna be able to tell,
Right.
Yeah, they're like, oh, whatever. They're like
what?
Like, man, I mean it hits different. Like the vintage style of it hits real different. Like if you look at these, of course, this is a new era. This is a starter. So at the end of the day, like you see how big this logo is compared to the 91. But even with that being said, they're not. It all depends. You know what I'm saying? Like if a person want to fuck with the vintage one, okay, that's cool. The Metro Ness one, that's cool. Me personally, if I can find this hat in fucking the vintage style, I'll get it. I'm getting a heartbeat. So other than that shit,
like to me, I'm sorry, I got one quick opinion. And I'll shut the fuck up.
Okay.
I just feel. All right, I'm gonna be the get off the lawn guy right now, and I think a lot of you can feel the same. I feel. What I feel a certain type of way when it's something that I grew up and I saw, like it came out while I was growing up. Like that starter jacket era, the hats, the like when I lived that era. But when I see my nephew that's like, just turned 23 years old and he's talking about starter hats and when the whole vintage hat phase like a couple years ago, was like 5-6 years ago, when everybody was really going heavy with the vintage hats. Young ass kids like, what the fuck you know about Logo Athletics? What you know about starter? They don't know shit about that shit. All they know is a snapback and it's vintage, and that always made me feel some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Because you never lived in that era. You don't know that brings nostalgic to me. To you, is just a fashion trend. For me, is nostalgic. I grew up in that era.
You know who started that fashion trend back 2009, 2010? You know who started wearing snaps and shit?
Who?
I never give props. I'm sorry, but I never give props to celebrities for bringing something that's never been gone. There's always that person that always collected it just because a rapper did it on TV. We're giving that person props. You always been into dunks just because Travis Scott starts wearing dunks. It's popular now. That kind of takes away from somebody like Rez that's always been into dunks. And when somebody says, who brought dunks back? Travis Scott. I'm like, nigga, I've been collecting dunks forever. Why we crowning people, celebrities, for bringing shit back? That doesn't fucking make sense.
How it is, especially now in the sneaker game too. Like all these people buying dunks and SBs and no disrespect to nobody, but at the same time, it's one thing I can never get myself into or whatever, because it's like when I think of vintage shit, I think personally, fucking Jordan, like J's, certain Nikes and all. And I'm not talking just the ones that just came out. I mean, ones that, you know, here and there, blah, 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 whatever. I'm thinking like Barrages, fucking Andre Agassi's, fucking
Right. Yeah.
damn, Barry Sanders, fucking the shoe that Alonzo Mourning wore that had the different straps on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm thinking of. That's what like I personally feel like that's that 90s shit. That's that true vintage shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But as Jersey heads, I'm gonna ask this question. I keep talking about it. I'm sorry, Rez. As Jersey heads,
Good.
if a rapper we never heard of, he becomes famous. Dude's 20 years old. He starts wearing throwback jerseys, and suddenly the throwback jersey trends goes hard, like 2003.
Like,
are we gonna be the ones like, yo, fucking Little Uzi's the one that brought jerseys back? Like, we're gonna all look like, get the fuck out of here. We always been in the jersey game. It's never died for us. Right. So I would never praise somebody. Not praise somebody. I would never praise an artist for bringing a fucking trend that never left for some of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's real spit.
So what about like Fabulous and like those rappers that like boom the jersey, I guess, fad of like the 2000s? Like
I think in that era is because he kept wearing them. He's consistent. And he got a fucking basically a deal with Mitchell and Ness. And my thing is, that whole era was all jerseys. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but Mitchell and Ness was pumping them out because it became popular. That's the only thing that comes good out of anything that becomes popular. They start pumping them out, and they start pumping out shit that, oh shit, I really wanted that. And the only reason they're coming out with it is because it's the popular thing now, and it's booming, and they're gonna just keep fucking milking the cow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they're gonna bring out shit that we always wanted to bring because it's the trendy thing now. You know what I'm saying? Like, fucking, I remember when fucking they were pumping out fucking what's some shit's called? Roshi runs. Everybody was rocking Roshi runs and Roshi this and Roshi what is it? Yeezy colorways, and everybody's Roshi. And who the fuck is wearing Roshi runs now? Crocs. Nobody was wearing Crocs. Now people are trying to say they brought Crocs back or something like that. Crocs right now, people. That's what I'm saying. Everybody rocking Crocs now.
A big example.
For those of you who don't know, Crocs are actually kitchen shoes. When I used to work in the kitchen, that's what the chefs would always wear because they're
slip free.
They're slip free, exactly. So now you got people wearing them like as like a
doctors.
I'm like, what's that?
Yeah. But are people going to be wearing Crocs 3 years from now? Probably not.
Probably not.
Because it's just a trendy thing now. Because you got Bad Bunny wearing them, you got collabs with Crocs. That's what I'm saying. Like next year is going to be another thing. We're going to be fucking wearing cowboy hats because it's the cool thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Cowboy hat. You won't be surprised to see cowboy hats and fucking Nike Dunks.
Are you talking about like an actual cowboy hat or like the Dallas
like a cowboy hat, not the Dallas cowboy
hat. Lil Nas X hat.
That's a little Nas. That's a little Nas.
Right. I'm saying I don't believe in I believe in our pioneer, like back in the day, like Run DMC made Adidas very popular and shit like that. I believe that. But somebody right now, like a little something, starts wearing shell-toes Adidas, and people are gonna say, "Oh, he's the reason that we're wearing shell-toes Adidas now. He brought them back." I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know Run DMC is hands down. Nobody will ever take that throne.
Right.
For sure. Let me move on to the next point real quick. We're almost done.
My bad, Rez, by the way.
No, you're good, man. Reason number 5, it says here that new boot wave is becoming out of control to the point where many big vintage resellers have abandoned their brand to start selling new boots instead of focusing on vintage. So, I mean, with this point right here, for me, I understand reselling. We've all done it. I mean, let's be honest here. You know, we've all resold stuff, but I don't know, like, how you guys feel in terms of it. Like, if you were a brand you were a brand and you were creating whatever it is you're selling. Well, I'll just use clothing as an example since we're all into this stuff. But like if you had a brand and you were you realized that your brand wasn't selling as much because you know, you had to basically move with the current wave in order to thrive as a business.
Mhm.
Like, how would you, to put yourself in that mindset as a CEO of a brand, how would you move your business if the only way to be able to thrive is to do it by that, like reproducing stuff that of old? Like you have the licensing, you're not bootlegging anything, you're basically mimicking a style of something that was of old, and you're basically trying to move with the times. Like, how would you assess that as like a CEO of a brand?
Shit.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say. I've been talking too much, so I'm just letting somebody else talk.
Yeah.
You're good, bro.
I don't know.
Go ahead, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, it just feels like it. I mean, I guess it depends. I guess really, it just kind of depends on what it is and kind of what the trends and stuff like that are, you know. But there's just a lot of, I mean, kind of like what Throwback Kings and guys like that's we're talking about earlier too. It's just like that's just the thing, It's just like because for a lot of us who aren't into that stuff, it's no different than the jersey game. It's no different than the sneaker game. It's no different than the hat game. It's just like to you and me, it's just like, or to the CEO of that company, they put their blood, sweat, and tears in getting all this stuff. And then, most of the people these days are just, going out there and buying the reproductions and stuff because, again, it's a lot cheaper, because, again, well, I mean, you were talking like what you said, KBM, like the hat you're wearing now, like versus like if the Mitchell Ness made it, is like a literally half, if not a quarter of the cost if you were to go on eBay and find that stuff. Even though it would hurt inside, it's just like because again, the problem is it's just at the end of the day, you've got to keep your doors open. You got to keep putting food on your table. It's just it sucks, but at the same time, it's just
like folks want to just follow with the times, man. They see
where do you cross that line though? Because if you're running a business, right, and you're just selling something unique that you make, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna use headbands.
Exactly.
You make amazing headbands, these REZRECTION headbands. They're so unique to the style, however is made, and you thrive because Rez's headbands are the greatest and best things. But then the number starts dwindling down. Do you feel like you have to sell out? Is it a form of selling out because you got to keep up with the trends? You're going to start making Jordan colorways. You're going to start. Mitchell Ness is a fucking prime example. I don't even keep throwing him under the bus, but Mitchell Ness used to make quality handcrafted jerseys that were to the time. They took their time with the research. Now they're making, Thunderbolt jerseys and picnic tables and stuff to match your sneakers. They kind of sold out. You know what I'm saying? As people that know how good quality Mitchell Ness was, they're sticking to the trends of what's gonna sell. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like if I'm not being genuine with myself with something that I built and I have to sell out just to make numbers, I'd rather just move on to the next project in my life because I'm not gonna make a patent leather headband because the patent leather headband is the coolest thing now. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I would just stick to my guns and I would just move on to the next project if I have to sell out to keep up with the trends.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
If it goes against your morals, if it goes against everything you feel and everything you're for, then yeah, it's that, in my opinion, then it's time to move on and do something that you actually feel good about and feel confident about, other than just, I guess, going into the consumer cash cow or whatever analogy you want to use there. It's just like, if it doesn't feel morally right, or if it doesn't feel like what you want to do as a person, or if it pushes you past the point where you're not yourself, then it's time to move on, because you're just doing it for the money as opposed to the love of what you're actually doing with the money. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I totally understand. I mean, as a business, as a CEO, obviously you want to shift. You want the business to thrive as long as possible, especially if it's a livelihood for you, for your your employees that are working under you. Sometimes you got to think what's for the greater good for the company rather than you yourself, so to speak. Because I mean, I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use the hundreds. It's the brand, with the
Man,
on
I ain't heard that logo. I ain't heard that coming a long time.
So they've been exactly. So we know that they've been around for a lot of the years that we grew up, and I've seen a lot of brands come and go, and whatever the reasons are, I'm sure there was a number of reasons. It could be anything from money to just not being what's in anymore to manufacturing issues, whatever the case may be. But you have brands like that are still doing their thing, that are still big, maybe even bigger than they were, but they're not really putting out products that appeal to the loyal or not loyal, but like OG supporters. I still buy their stuff from time to time, but I don't buy stuff as often as I used to. I used to buy it all the time when I was in high school. I used to buy it all the time when I was in college, and then I just kind of stopped buying it after a while. But then, they'll sprinkle in those little nuggets of like OG, like nostalgic feelings of like the Atom Bomb and stuff like that. But my thing is like, there's a book that Bobby Hundreds, the creator, he's the co-founder of Hundreds brand, where he wrote about this, about how to thrive as a company or as a brand. And sometimes you just got to do what's best for the brand rather than what's best for you personally. I'm gonna use George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars. He does not have the brand anymore. He doesn't own rights to it. It now belongs to Disney.
Absolutely, yep.
He started this movement, and it got to the point now where he's like, it's not mine anymore. I sold it off. But he did what he had to do. Obviously, they paid him a fat check, I'm sure. But he had to do what he had to do to make sure that, he took care of himself, and he made sure that the brand was in good hands, and it's still thriving, which it still is, because Star Wars is just as big as it was, I feel like, in the 80s.
Yep, that's true.
Now, or it's just like, I don't know. I guess you got to put yourself in that mindset, because like right now, obviously none of us, I don't think we don't have any of our own brands, but maybe when that comes in, when you're put in a position like that, you might think otherwise, but that's just my food for thought on that reason. Moving on to this next post right here. Let me look at some of these comments real quick. Mike says, why follow trends? Why follow the crowd? It's easy to fall into that, Mike. I have. I've fallen into a lot of hype stuff, a lot of trends, a lot of like what everybody's into. It's hard. It's hard to see that, and I feel like now in this time in my life, as a person who likes fashion and style and stuff, I feel like I'm moving in a different lane. I'm kind of going in a lane where there's only a select few of genuine people that are in this lane. And I feel like I'm back on this lane that I wanted to do when I first started. So, obviously when I was gone from the Jersey game, I was collecting a lot of different things. But I was buying things that were because they were in or because they were the trends. But, it happens. You just got to be able to really look back for a second and just ask yourself, like, yo, is this really what I want to collect? Is this really what I want to do? Right. And, you start buying into it. You start buying into the propaganda. You start buying into, but Travis Scott is wearing these. They're fresh. They're in. Oh, but everybody's wearing Crocs. You saw Post Malone wearing Crocs. Like, it's like the wave is going to change. Like, once the wave is hit, it's going to change again. There's going to be another wave, and then it's going to hit, and then there's going to be another wave. Just like Snack said with the Roshi gang. Like, everybody was wearing Roshis. I even had a couple of the color Roshis and stuff like that. And look now, nobody's wearing them. So to answer your question, yeah, like it's easy to fall into that. but
Mhm.
you can catch it. You just got to be able to step back.
We're definitely all definitely victims of this shit. And it's funny
We all-
because you get to a point of your life. Everybody's gonna get to the point of their life that, yo, you always got to come back home and be like, yo, what really makes me happy? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You start giving a fuck about what people think.
That's
What
a
up, Mighty?
Hey, what's going on?
What's
What
Is
up,
that a
bro?
friend?
Yeah.
Looking awfully green today.
That's the
I love
beautiful
it.
Fred Barnett.
You look real serious. You came in here real serious. Damn.
Man,
He was my first favorite Eagle, Fred Barnett.
man.
Yeah, I know that.
Arkansas
My
Fred.
I listen to the videos.
I thought it was Wentz.
No, I was with the Eagles when they were in these colors before
That's cool.
the midnight green. So,
Yeah.
but no. So you guys gotta I tuned in a little late, but I know the main topic is vintage gear. And at least for some of what I was hearing is like how do we feel about trends, and how do we feel about companies I guess remaking some of the stuff that was made back in the days when I was patrolling middle school and
Yeah.
wearing
So
the starter and those type of stuff.
so just to recap, Mighty. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this topic tonight because I was on my Instagram, and I follow some vintage pages and stuff like that, and there was a vintage post from a vintage seller that posted this. Actually, I don't know if they're a seller, but it was a vintage page, and it was basically 9 reasons new bootlegs are hurting the vintage market. So I think in this case they're using bootleg as the term as like remade t-shirts of older style brands or style. So like for example, the shark tooth hats, or like the old script sports specialties hats, now you have like brands like Mitchell and Ness that are making them today, but there's like this negative connotation amongst the vintage community that really frown upon that. It's almost like people who frown on the newer Mitchell and Ness jerseys that are being produced because they're like, oh nah, the fit sucks on this, the print is off, it's it fits like it. Like
don't they have a whole Facebook group dedicated to no Mitchell and Ness jerseys allowed type shit? Like it's all.
Do they really?
Like,
Oh,
you know something
I don't
Mitchell
know.
and Ness
I've
that's
never
on
heard of that.
There's a baseball. There is actually. I'm in the group too. There's
only vintage or
there's
some
an
shit like that.
authentic baseball jersey group, and it's no Mitchell and Ness. It's just all, either today's stuff or the vintage, Russells or what have yous. But no Mitchell and Ness allowed in that group, and it's pretty cool. It's cool to see like the variety of different things. I got a whole rack over there of just vintage, non Mitchell and Ness, just the authentic stuff. Russell Athletic and a couple Rawlings, and then the the Majestics and such.
But those people are hardcore. Like,
oh yeah,
they will shit on you because you got a Mitchell and Ness version because it's not
Or
an
it's just
original.
like
I can't.
Chris
I'm sorry, I
David
can't
community.
stand people like that. Don't shit on me because I can't fucking wear a Rawling size 44.
right.
Sorry.
yeah. I mean, as we all know, I collect what I like, whether it's Mitchell and Ness, whether it's other brands, as long as I'm happy with it, vintage stuff, current stuff. I mean, it just runs the gamut, and I can understand where some people would really be staunch about it because that's their passion, and to them that there's nothing that's better. And why recreate something that was awesome, and that's just their thing. Listen, there's people who thinks that way in music and all sorts of stuff, right? So when it comes to recreating, and I think that's what this is. It's recreating trends from the past. And I'm going to give an example because this is a hat, and I never got back in the day, and it is a hat that I would like to grab because it's an awesome looking hat, and it's one that I certainly remember, the guy wearing on his head when he was drafted. So Mitchell Ness recently did the 1996 draft hats. They redid them like how they looked back then, which was like the You got the name of the team on the front, and then it kind of fades into the logo a little. We got a bigger logo, kind of faded into the smaller logo.
We
And
were just talking about that.
yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I missed
No,
it.
but go ahead. I was
who
like,
made the originals? Was it Logo Athletic? I do kind of forget.
it was
who made
Logo
it.
Athletics.
Logo Athletic, right?
Yeah.
And so Mitchell and Ness put out a set of these, and they put out quite a few teams that they did the Sixers, and this. I feel a little bad because I got the one on Black Friday, and then they redid it with the basketball logo on there for how Iverson wore it. I'm like, yeah, you just couldn't have this when I was there, huh? But it is one that I'd like to get, even though it's a recreation of it, because I never got it back in the day. And if you saw it today, because it was Iverson, rookie hat, the seller would want top dollar for it, and even the Charlotte Hornets or Los Angeles Lakers versions of those because of Kobe. Now I did pick up the Hornets and Lakers Mitchell Ness versions at the store, and I call it the Kobe set. That's what it is, because those hats, Kobe was drafted by the Hornets and of course traded, soon after the Lakers, so obviously he switched hats. So I got both of those hats. And I do have a version of the Sixers, but I'm a stickler. So I want the one with the basketball logo, and I'm gonna have to go back for that one. But and
by the way, Rez, Mighty, if you go get one, please, I will PayPal you the money and PayPal you the shipping. If you could get that hat for me, that's a grail for me. Okay.
I'll get it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
What is the hat?
Huh?
Which hat are you talking about, Snacks?
The Sixers.
The NBA draft '96 Iverson hat.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's always. I think that's a grail for anybody that collects anything Iverson.
Yeah. And I got the closest looking one that I could find at that time, like a couple weeks ago, and then they, Mitchell and Ness, they like to play their games, and they're like, coming to the store, the Iverson set, and it's all these different Sixer Iverson related hats and the '96 redo of it. But I look at it as like a second chance. Like I didn't get this hat back then. Now it's really hard to find, and if you see it, you're going to have to pay through the nose for it. Well, here's a company like Mitchell & Ness that's recreating them, and it gives me a collector a second chance at them. Now, I can understand where someone who only collects vintage hats won't touch Mitchell & Ness because, again, that's their passion. They want this hat. They have this hat that's like a big part of their collection. And here comes Mitchell and Ness making their versions. And like, no, this is better, this is the original. You have to have the original, whereas me, I just look at it as just a way to get it, whether it was a vintage, and I own quite a few vintage hats in the collection, or whether it's a redo of it via Mitchell and Ness or New Era or whoever makes them. It gives me like another chance. It's like another shot at it. And, I'll gladly take it. It's just one of those things where, hey, in about 10 years, the thing's going to be considered vintage anyhow. I mean, I have plenty of Mitchell and Ness apparel that's considered vintage now because it was old run stuff, right? Hats, jerseys, what have you. So, it is what it is. That name vintage really gets tossed around a lot and in various different circles. Mm-hmm. Everything becomes vintage after a while.
That's true. I actually had a shirt that I have a lot of graphic tees. So I had a graphic tee shirt that was a promotional item from a video game release. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the game Tekken, but there was a video game of Tekken 4 that came out. Man, I want to say this game came out. Do you guys know off the top of your head when that game came out? Tekken 4. Hold on, let me Google it real quick.
No. So
that game came out in 2001 of July. So about a year ago, I took this shirt with me to one of my homies who sells vintage stuff, and immediately somebody came up there and was like, "How much you want for that shirt?" And I was like, "Yo, I don't know, I don't really know what to price this at." And he was like, "I'll give you $100 for it." And I was like, my jaw dropped because I was like, $100 for a shirt that was literally given to me for a release date of a video game. And I was like, I if you want to work out a trade, because I was getting, this was like the time when I started to, I got in a wave where I was like getting into vintage hats, and I still wear vintage hats and stuff, but I can't pay the price like what people are asking for.
Yeah.
So this guy had, he's like, can I offer you a trade? And I was just like, sure. What do you have? And he had 49er stuff because I live in the Bay Area. Had a vintage 49er sports specialties hat, and he also had an original chalk line 49ers jacket, the gold with 49ers on the back. I would have taken it, but it was too small. I couldn't fit in it.
Oh.
So he was like, what about if I give you the hat and I give you $50? I was like, let's go. I don't want the shirt anymore. This is something so I mean, it's just crazy to me because the hat is valued at like KBM said previously, these hats could go anywhere as cheap as $80. That's considered cheap. For me, any hat, even $40, which is like the average price for a New Era hat at your local lids, that's already pushing it for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you're paying double the amount for a used hat or a vintage hat, like to me, like that's crazy. But I understand why people do it. But I was like trying to understand, like trying to get into people's heads of why they think like that. And you brought up a great example, Mighty, because you basically explained it. Mitchell and Ness, like brands like Mitchell and Ness are giving opportunities like people like a second chance. But then you have these like purists, who are just like, no, fuck that, fuck Mitchell and Ness and blah 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 and all this. That's another thing I wanted to bring up too, because I'm actually part of a Facebook group that actually it's a hockey group, but it's strictly vintage hockey jerseys, no Adidas authentics.
Oh yeah, I think you know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like crazy. Like they will ban you if you post anything about Adidas hockey jerseys. And I'm just like, really? Like they're the official licensors for the NHL right now. So how is this like bad? But it's like, no, it's like you have people who are so purist with this anti modern day, it's crazy to me. And I don't know, man. It's just like I don't know how people think about that, or how they feel about it, but it's crazy. Let me just highlight some comments real quick. Go ahead.
Oh. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It's almost the same way we feel about people not posting fake jerseys. We don't want that shit on our. It's almost that same feeling. Like, what's the reason we don't want fake jerseys being posted? It's because we want to see authentics. We want to see the real deal stuff, and we want to promote fake. You know what I'm saying? So I know that feeling, but we just don't do it with brands. We do it more with, we don't want to see fake shit. I don't want to promote fake shit. And my thing is, there's legit checks, which is awesome. That only helps the community. But as far as posting fakes, we don't want it. And we're here, we're not going to be like, what the fuck? Why the fuck you wearing? Like, some people just don't know. That's the reason we have Kings of Throwbacks, Jersey Kicks and Lids and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But I think I know that feeling probably, because I don't want any fakes posted on purpose on Kings of Throwbacks, because it reflects on everybody on Kings of Throwbacks,
Well, the other thing about the vintage stuff is, and I can understand where it would be even more challenging, not just because it's harder to find depending on what you're looking for, but then you got to find your size. And the vintage stuff. The vintage stuff, as we know, they weren't overly, they weren't overly
they're not big
helpful to the big guys.
No, yeah.
So that's where it helps, where you have a brand, a company, whether you go the custom route, get the jersey done from scratch, or whether it's Mitchell and Ness, but at least there's jerseys for bigger guys that we can win out. Now the store's starting to tail away from that, but that at least you can go on the website, you can find your 2-3X's, you can on eBay, all the other, you can find more in your size that you can wear. It might not be a vintage jersey, but it's a repro of a jersey that was made back in the day or what have you, and you can wear it. You have that ability to do that. But you did mention, Rez, I do want to kind of piggyback a little bit off of one of the things you mentioned was those chalk line jackets. Oh my! If someone would recreate those, whether it be Mitchell and Ness or another company, I know Snacks had some wrestling ones, not long ago, but boy, I mean, some of those old chalk line jackets with those big logos and graphics on the back of them, like
Well,
almost.
Chocolate is still around. They just don't have the
Yeah, it's
NFL
still.
license.
Oh my God! If someone would make those again, because I still remember the Eagles one, and I never got it back then. The only one I ever got was a Michael Jordan one. Back in the day. But something like the Eagles one, and those jackets were, I mean, I don't know if I can find one that would fit me now, but I mean, if they could just bring those things back, I'd be all over a few of those for sure.
I was so mad because I really wanted that jacket so bad, but it was like there's no way I could fit in this. Like,
yeah,
no.
I'd have to be like skinny Rez, like like from 08 type of day. But like it was too big or it was too small.
Go ahead, John.
Oh yeah. So since y'all talking about the old chalk line, I saw one not that long ago. It was a vintage Hulk Hogan one, going for like $1,000. It had holes and all that stuff on it.
Appreciate you, Oscar.
And holes.
Appreciate it.
And I think it was like a size large.
Yeah, it's
that's
tough.
Old school one.
No, like in order for me to even, I don't even think they made anything past 2X back then.
No.
I think
even
that was
the newer stuff for me run small.
Yeah, and even the 2X might have been like fitted on me.
They always ran short. They were always like short. They were wide and short.
Yeah,
I want that Wolfpack jacket they got on, man. But
I did a random search a couple years ago on eBay for chalkline jackets, and I mean, seeing some of the logos and stuff on the back, but I mean, most of them
like the Kelly Green, Neil?
Smaller sizes,
Now, were they like the Kelly Green Eagles ones, or like the actual like midnight green, or
no? It was the old Kelly. It was the Kelly Green.
It was the Kelly ones.
Like, it was an eagle, like it was a real eagle, like on the back of the jacket, and it had eagles, and it had like this word mark on there. I think they made a Randall Cunningham too, because they used to
Cunningham
do
one. That was beautiful.
Yeah, and they would make player jackets, and then they would make team jackets, and obviously they did wrestling too, but. The player jackets were really cool. Like that Jordan one I used to have was awesome, but because it had the Bulls logo on the sleeve, the Jordan, and it had like the Bulls logo on the front with the number and his like signature there. They put a ton of detail in these jackets, and some of those graphics on the back were just stunning, And it's like one of those things where, man, I just wish somehow, some way they could recreate those and. Maybe slightly bigger sizes, and I would be on a few of them. That's for sure. I'm not a huge jacket guy, but I would definitely be on a few of those. That's for sure.
For sure. Let me go back to the next post here.
Check this out, brother. Before you do the Crow Fanimation jacket by
what's interesting about that, John? I actually bought my fiance the not that jacket, but I bought her the other Crow jacket with the logo for her birthday in October.
You talking about this one?
Yeah, I bought. She's a huge Crow fan. She loves that movie.
Look at the hair.
There you go.
I love the Crow.
What was his name? Eric Draven, I think was his name, right?
Eric Draven. Yep.
Draven. Yeah. That was a dope movie.
Eric Draven.
Yeah, that was Brandon Lee.
The Crow. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a dope movie.
Yeah. I love that movie.
All right, let me go on to the next post here. But all right, reason number 6 out of 9. It says the rush to sell new boots is because sellers are seeing a dip in some t-shirt prices, which is directly connected to them selling new boots. They're essentially hurting their own prices by rushing to sell new boots alongside their vintage. So
that's it.
I guess that's one of those things where it's like people feel like they got to sell it if it's they're paying close attention to the market, but I don't know like if that's something that should be really focused on.
You gave a great example months ago about the Lightning 4s. Like those were so rare and sought after. But as soon as they retro them, some shits were like, what I'm saying? People couldn't, wasn't trying to they weren't getting top dollars for the vintage one, like the original OG versions.
No
You know what I'm saying? So you have to sell high. If I know I have something that's rare and it's about to come out in a month or two, I'd rather sell high than wait till the sneaker comes out and my shit ain't worth shit because it's all over the place. Can you imagine how those Sixers hats from 1996? I bet those hats are not selling as high as before, just because they replicated that. They replicated that hat. And people are probably look at them like, I'm not gonna spend that much money. I can just get the Mitchell Ness version. That's a prime example. You know what I'm saying? So I would sell, knowing if something's gonna come out that I have that's rare, one of like whatever, and it's coming out. Like I will sell it as soon as possible before it officially comes out, because my version it ain't won't be worth shit.
Yeah, like supply and demand basically is what that is. You know, there's not a lot of supply, but the demand is high. But then once the supply gets high, then the demand gets low. So it's just like, as a business, I could see why, going back to what you said there, with that last point, it's just like, well, yeah, the reason why they do that is so that way they can pump out and sell more stuff. But it's just like, eventually it just saturates the market, and then, let's just say, for example, the Randy Moss jersey that I'm wearing here, if let's say Starter or something like that were to come out and just make nothing but these type of Randy Moss jerseys, then like the ones on eBay or stuff like that would just drop, because, well, why would I spend $300 on, this when I can go for $150 for something that is officially licensed as well, that's literally of the same quality. And it's just, yeah, supply and demand is a real crazy thing in the jersey game, or just in the vintage game, or just in games in general, especially with the resellers and the people that remake and remodel and just, post all their stuff. So,
but the only thing that can save you is the purists, the people that they don't care how much they replicate it, they want that original.
Well, there's also a reverse to that too. If you think about it. Now, I don't think many people do that, but a lot of us jersey heads do that. So let's say, Jake, like Mitchell Ness put out their version of that home white Randy Moss, and they put it with the patch and everything. But obviously now I own both. I have the vintage and I have the Mitchell Ness version, and I understand the differences between the two. The original, obviously, the quality's there, yoke sleeves, everything like that, what have you. But so the difference in that with us is that Mitchell Ness will put out a jersey from like the Starter, Puma, Reebok Air, or what have you, and we're like, but I can just go on eBay and look for the original, and so we'll see their jersey, and then we'll head on eBay to try to find the vintage one. Like I found myself doing that last week when they put out the Steve McNair, Titans.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, at first I thought they were going to do the Super Bowl, and they didn't do the Super Bowl one. They just did the regular tight. So I'm like, I like it, but I bet you, and I have the more, their alternate. I have the alternate authentic McNair, and I do have the one that Mitchell Ness made years ago, with the first year in Tennessee with the Tennessee Oilers. But so I found myself running on the eBay and like, let me see if I could just find a vintage McNair. Just because it was in my mind, and
supposed to be probably cheaper.
And they were cheaper, but
always cheaper.
Sizes weren't, the best for me. But yeah, they're there. I mean, you just have to look. And like the Randy Moss jerseys, Mitchell Ness made theirs. You go on eBay, they're there all day. The Puma.
This is the part I don't understand. I'm gonna do my little personal little rant. Like I like when I made my video opening my my champion authentic Nets Jason Kidd jersey. Yeah. I could put that on sale. Nobody will fucking even DM me. But Mitchell Ness comes out with it, the same exact jersey, original vintage. We'll see 100 posts. Oh my God, they're coming out with the gray alternate Nets jersey. Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, really? Like, what the fuck? Some people are just probably brand loyal, or they just want to see they want the Mitchell Ness version for a reason. And I'm like, and I don't fucking get the mindset of that. Because honestly, we're like before that Steve McNair jersey been on eBay for years, but suddenly it got you interested because Mitchell and Ness came out with it. That's the logic that I don't understand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, there's fucking Steve McNair jerseys for years on on eBay, but suddenly they came out on Mitchell and Ness came out with it. Now you're searching it. Like, why? Because
I can't explain it.
I don't understand. I don't understand the mindset of that.
Since y'all mentioned the Steve McNair, I mean, look at the helmet tag one I just showed a couple minutes ago. I found it for a great deal on eBay.
Sure.
And, you know, since Mighty was talking about that, I was like, you know what? I got the helmet tag one.
Yeah. That's one of those things where it's like, it's almost like a purist mentality. You know what I mean? Like, people would prefer to get Mitchell and that. And I'm talking about like people who are pure to the brand and not necessarily the, you know, the nostalgia aspect of it. Because we all know like those Reebok helmet tags came out before, you know, like the days of Mitchell and Ness now bringing stuff back, you know, or like looking for an example is the Dwayne Wade, the 2006 finals jersey in that that red. I love that jersey, but I already have it. I already have it in Adidas Authentic.
I just have to put the patch on.
Me too. And it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, you know, like, why would you get that when you could get this? You know, it fits better, you know, it's more fit. And I'm just like, but the ones that came out, the Adidas and Reebok versions are more true to how they were actually worn back then. So it's like, people are just assuming, oh, I'm going to choose Mitchell and Ness over this because it's Mitchell and Ness. You know what I mean? So they're like,
I know you guys all remember when Mitchell and Ness first came out with the LeBron rookie jersey, and that was a fucking trend on Kings of Throwbacks. And I was like, why the fuck are you guys gonna get a 2003 jersey? I'm like, bro, you could get it on eBay right now. There's a ton of them. And people were like, no, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, whatever. That was like a big, because that was like probably one of the first jerseys. Like, there was a couple of jerseys that they had active players still in the league, and that that was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird to have active players with Mitchell and Ness jerseys.
Yeah.
I think the first time I've seen that was Brett Favre, obviously, but the weirdest one was always Sean Alexander, Seahawks jersey. Because to me, that was like the oldest jersey that they made. That was like 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was like, why the fuck Mitchell and Ness making a 2000s jersey? That's weird. So when they came out with the whole 2003 and now they're making Steph Curry jerseys, and I'm like, I'm still to this day, I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm so used to Mitchell and Ness making 80s, 90s, that's it, throwback jerseys. Why the fuck are we getting
Vikings?
Steph Curry? He's still in the league and he's still playing. So, but now I get it. Obviously,
we're getting.
clientele.
That's what I was going to bring up. Was the fact that, like, you know, Throwback King summed it up the best. Like, it's weird to me that they're making all these early 2000 jerseys, like the Brian Urlacher. You know, they're making the 2001. I would rather just get the Reebok Authentic, and I would love to get the helmet tag one, but usually all the ones I find is never my size. Because I know the helmet tags run small, and I saw one listed for $400. It's a size 54, but I know it'll fit like a 52.
Well, I mean, the reason why they're doing it is because the clientele. The clientele is now younger. Those are the guys that they liked, you know, so they're going to pump them out. I mean, that, you know.
But they have Rev 30 jerseys. Like, come on.
And they're trying to go with what they feel is going to sell. So if those players they feel are going to sell, that's what.
When it's not a replicating Rev, the one thing that like I've said, I'm not trying to. I love Mitchell and Ness and all that shit. I know you guys are gonna defend it all the way through, no matter what the fuck I say. But when they came out with the fucking Reebok equipment logo on it, I'm like, yo, what the those just fucking they just transferred over to Nike, and now they're making Reebok fucking equipment NFL logos. I'm like, what the fuck? That's crazy to me. You know, it's crazy to me because we're such big jersey heads, and we bought jerseys in that era. To see that jersey that was like $150 authentic, to see it for $300, it blows my fucking mind. And now we're seeing Rev 30 jerseys and we're seeing like, you know what I'm saying? We're who's buying a John Wall Wizards jersey? That's fucking weird to me. Like really, nobody. The thing is, nobody bought a John Wall jersey when he played for the Wizards. But we're gonna buy the Mitchell and Ness version.
Actually,
that doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
Alex Kearns, points forwards, bought it.
Of course,
Yeah.
he buys any as long as it's on. He'll buy it. I
No.
saw his tech video today. But shout out to. I saw his tech video. I'm like, I'm sure that he's fucking living in a mansion somewhere with Batman or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just his tech. I can't even afford his tech bag.
I think that the thing for me is when, and it's different because like, you know, I go to the store. I think it's just one of those is when I see it, it just kind of it just draws me, you know. Like you mentioned about the LeBron jersey, so all three of the LeBrons that I have are the ones that I mean his rookies in that navy blue. They're all the Mitchell and Ness ones, just because I saw it at the store and I just got drawn to it. You know, because it's right there, and I'm like looking at it. And I'm like, "Ooh, this is better than it's better than."
I don't know one person that has that John Wall Mitchell and Ness jersey. I'm sorry.
Have anyone, no.
Nobody had a John Wall jersey while he's like, who's buying that? I'm sorry. I know this is probably a big John Wall fan. But I think if you're a big John Wall fan, you would have that Wizards jersey.
Yeah.
Like to me, that Wizards jersey does not make any sense to me at all. If they had a chance to make and that's the first time I think they made a Rev 30 jersey, right? That's like the first time they actually did it with that one or the All-Star jersey, the LeBron All-Star jersey. But to me, it's like sometimes the logic to me that we got into the point. Like I said, I'm becoming that old man get off my front yard person because I'm starting to realize that you forget that Steph Curry's been in the league for a long ass time. Mm-hmm. You forget, and I'm like, why the fuck do you keep making Steph Curry jerseys? He's been in the league for how many years now? Like, yeah, he's been in the league for a minute.
Was it 09?
If they make more than I have to get,
we're about to hit 2022. Like that, I'm my mindset is still stuck in 2003. I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
Crazy.
It's 2022, bro.
It's crazy
in a couple weeks.
And I was born in 2000, but I agree with Throwback King.
Yeah.
I
think you have to be a super John Wall fan, but if you are, you would already had that Wizards jersey.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Because I can't see myself buying a John Wall. I'd rather spend the $300 on a Michael Jordan Wizards jersey or even a Jerry Stackhouse.
Yep. Let me go to the net. Let me finish these slides real quick.
Sorry, Rez. I know we get off topic sometimes.
You're fine, man. Reason number 7 says the decline in prices of Disney and Marvel is directly related to the flood of new bootlegs from sellers in those genres. So many $400 tees.
I'm sorry. That again. I didn't hear the first beginning of that.
So it says the decline in prices of Disney and Marvel is directly related to the flood of new bootlegs from sellers in those genres. So many $400 tees are going down to $250 or $200. Wow. This is directly connected to the new boots, giving their audience a cheaper alternative to the real stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I would never spend that kind of money today on this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I say that I didn't, because I did pay a pretty penny on stuff. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it's crazy to me. Like, just now that I'm older, now that I'm wiser, I think I feel like I'm wiser, but it's like, who in their right mind would spend $400, $500? Any t-shirt in triple digits to me is nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But that's what people are. If you're into it, you're in. Like, people look at us, we're fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're it's funny because we're calling people weirdos for spending. Like, I feel the same way. I would never spend $300 on a t-shirt, but we spent $300 on a thicker t-shirt with numbers on it.
I mean, I can give my logic to that. Sorry, Big John, but hold up. But like, I could give my logic to that, just for anybody that's wondering. Shout outs to the 17 people in here right now watching. But for me, and again, I'm not knocking nobody into vintage who's like that, into the vintage game. Like, by no means am I trying to disrespect anybody. I'm just trying to get into the mindset of somebody who is a vintage reseller or a vintage collector strictly, or somebody who, like KBM, who kind of shared his 2 cents earlier about, his thought process of it. But like, the reason why I would personally why I can justify spending that amount on a jersey as opposed to like a regular t-shirt. I mean, jerseys obviously they last longer, durability, longevity, assuming you take care of any, your jerseys. As with all pieces of clothing, you take care of it, it'll go a long way. It'll last you a very long time. But like, to me, it's the pros of having a jersey in terms of that aspect heavily outweigh that of a vintage, good quality shirt. The shirt, regardless, is going to fade. It's going to shrink. It's more susceptible to getting a hole or a tear or a rip as opposed to a jersey, which is a little more
wear it like that too.
You could wear it multiple times without having to worry about, it fading. And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I guess to each his own. I hate using that term because it's just so, I feel like we use that all the time, but like, it's just like the pros outweigh the cons for that. That's my interpretation.
And it's crazy because that same person you're probably talking to about the vintage shirts, they could turn around and give you the pros and cons on why a vintage shirt is better than a jersey. So like that mentality, you already know the mentality of a vintage person because you have the same mentality as a jersey head. So you really don't need to talk to somebody that's into vintage because you're literally the same answer that you're giving to the vintage person. That vintage person gonna give you the same exact answer back to you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or just
we don't see the logic in it, but they do.
So Roberto, like vintage and Mitchell and Ness are both awesome. Yeah, I'm not hating on either one. I mean, I collect both. I collect vintage stuff. I also collect Mitchell and Ness. My thing though is that like I can't, like when it comes to like certain things of vintage, like there's like certain vintage pieces. I'm gonna use Disney for an example. There was a guy selling a vintage Mickey Mouse t-shirt for like $900. And I think he sold it for like $750 or something like that. Mickey Mouse t-shirt. So hey, I mean, there's people that are out there that'll spend thousands of dollars on sneakers. So that's no surprise to me. I'm not surprised. I know J-Mac, I know you're in here, man. Like just the amount that you spend on like your game worn or team issue jerseys, you've said publicly on your channel that you spend a lot of money, more than the average retail authentic. Like for me personally, like I wouldn't spend more. My absolute max for a jersey that I would spend, I'm not going over 300 or 350. Like that's my absolute max. I don't, because there's just so many ways. And the way I'm looking at it, it's like, okay, why would I spend $350 on a jersey when I could get people like Mac, Rivalry Sportswear, who can make that jersey for me for literally half the price?
Less than half the price.
And the quality is just as good, if not slightly better than, paying that. Like it just, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I know people are going to be like, oh, well, he's not officially licensed. He doesn't have don't matter to me. Like at that point, like it's just, it's different. Like people have a different mindset when it comes to assessing that type of thing. But again,
I'm gonna give a quick example. I don't know if it kind of messes with the why we collect and stuff like that. Like for example, I sold my Roberto Clemente rookie card, something I thought I would never fucking do. And I have it because I'm a collector of Roberto Clemente. I love Roberto Clemente. And I sat there and looked at the card and I said, what is this card doing to me? It's not doing anything for me. It, to me, is like, I have it. It's dope that I have it. I enjoyed it. But me not having this Roberto Clemente rookie card, is that going to make me less of a fan of Roberto Clemente if I don't have that Roberto Clemente card? And in my head, I'm like, yo, I'm still going to love Roberto Clemente. I love what he represents. I take pride in the jerseys I have of him. And I sold it. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking that money towards something bigger, a bigger goal of mine. Mm-hmm. And I think as sometimes we get so attached to these things that we have, and it doesn't, like, we all know, we all love jerseys, man. If you have one jersey or 100 jerseys, that's not going to take away, like, I could use Mighty for an example. He can have all those jerseys. Doesn't matter how many jerseys he has. We all know how passionate he is about sports and just jerseys itself. It's a love and a passion. If he didn't have that collection, I would still consider him one of the biggest jersey heads I ever known, because he has a love for it. He's educated about it, and he knows his shit. So this was one of those things, like sometimes we get caught up in having this. It's got to be this, it's got to be the vintage Dare shirt, or I'm not a vintage collector. Like, nah, that shit doesn't make or break you. If you have a love for it, you got a love for it, man. So my bad. That was my little PSA, but it's just one of those things that it made me think about my Clemente rookie card, because it's one of those things I feel like it does feel like I got a hole in my collection of Roberto Clemente, but it's not gonna change how I feel about Roberto Clemente. It's not gonna change that I'm a Clemente fan. It's not gonna be less. It's not gonna make me less of a fan. You know what I'm saying? Just because you don't have that extra Steph Curry jersey in your collection is not gonna make you less of a Steph Curry fan. You know what I'm saying? Just a hole in your collection. You know what I'm saying?
What up?
Was good.
Let's go. Let me just highlight some comments real quick. Christopher, that's funny. Says, I would spend $300 on a baseball card, but never a shirt. Hey, like I said, everybody has their own fix, man. Some people would never spend $300 on a jersey, but they would on a pair of sneakers in a heartbeat, or baseball. In your instance, a baseball card. Big PLB says, I like the untouchable Nike Elite over Reebok. If that's your fix, man, I mean, more power to you, Disney fans are crazy, though, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that is true.
That's an understatement, bro. That's an understatement. So, just like the overall vintage game itself, I feel like to many it's crazy. But to people who are in the community and that are like, that they live and breathe and do this for their living, like, it's what they do. And I know a lot of great vintage collectors out there. This a couple of weeks ago, I went to Savers, and you guys know what Savers is, right? You guys have those over there?
So, I don't really have them, but I have like Goodwill and like stuff that.
So basically, it's like that. Like, you can donate your clothes there. People go there, donate their stuff, and then they'll put them out, and they sell them. They sell them for whatever, like, cheap. I'm talking about super cheap prices. So, just to kind of put things in perspective, I was there, and I'm not the type of person to go like thrifting to resell. I usually go there to see if I could find good stuff. And this was my first time going there, and I found a vintage. I don't know if you want to consider it vintage. I considered it vintage just because it was a vintage San Jose Sabercats Flex Fit hat, and unfortunately, it was too small. Huh?
It's vintage. They don't exist anymore, so
they don't exist. Exactly. The team folded, so it's like a thing of the past. But anyways, like, the hat was $3.49, and I bought this hat hoping that I could like wear it and stuff. Turned out it was too small for me. I looked ridiculous wearing it. I posted it on eBay because I couldn't get rid of it anywhere else, and somebody literally bought it off me for $35. So I turned a $3.49 hat into a $35. So that's just a little example of something that, somebody could even sell. Like, if you go to a thrift store and you find like a vintage, like, Mickey Mouse t-shirt or a vintage band tee of Metallica or Nirvana or something, or even Deftones, and you sell this shirt, man, and you see what it goes for, it's crazy.
A lot of people that's actually a very lucrative business. There are people. I used to follow this guy on YouTube, and I'm blanking on his name right now. And he wasn't gouging. Like, he would sell. He had his own website where he would sell everything, and he not crazy prices, but still much higher than obviously he paid. That's all he did, and you
talking about Paul. You talking about Paul Cantu.
Paul Cantu, yeah. There you go.
I've actually bought a few things off
Cantu, yes. And I used to watch his vids all the time because I was just so amazed at things he would find, like vintage gems, right? And he had this. He just did all these vlogs, right? Him at the thrift and his friends, and they would do crazy things, and it was very entertaining. He was really good at editing and stuff. And it was amazing, like, all these different things. And here's this jacket, here's this NASCAR shirt, here's this hat, here's this. And he goes to many thrifts, right? It's not just the one. and he would get them, and then he would sell them on his page, and you every now and then he would show the page, and you would see. And I actually went on the page once, but there really wasn't much that I had much interest in. But it's amazing, and that's all they do. Every day, go to various different thrift stores, pick up these shirts, these hats, but they know the value, so they know that this is something that's going to sell. This is a good mover. This is something, okay, let's stay away from. Oh, there's a hole in this. Let's not worry about this or something. So they really inspect, these things in the stores, and it's in a way, it was fascinating to me to watch these things.
Oh yeah,
for sure. No, you know what, that really puts things in perspective for me, because me knowing that I have the opportunity to find something for literally like chump change. I'm talking about pocket change, enough to buy me like a small sliced pizza or something, like, and like people are selling this stuff to make a living. Like, it kind of made me question my priorities and what I'm spending my money on. So obviously I'm still buying jerseys and I'm buying all this stuff that I don't need, essentially. But like, it really made me think twice about paying resale on anything, really. I hate paying resale. Like, it bothers me now, because like before I'm like, oh, but this is what's in, and oh, it's a great deal. And with the jersey game, like, let's be real, guys. Like, how many times do we ever even spend retail on a jersey? It's rare, right? Like, I don't think we always.
I don't think King Leonidas.
Like, we always try to find a deal, with the exception of King, because he's crazy. But like, we always try to get a deal. And a lot of times, like with the jerseys, you could find them for way below retail. You know what I mean? Like, you could find a $300 Mitchell & Ness jersey for like $150, $140, depending on who's selling it and stuff. But they do pop up. So it's just like the whole vintage thing to me is fascinating, and I'm not knocking it in any way. I'm very intrigued onto the logic behind a person who does this for a living. Like, are they doing this because they just want to make the money? Are they doing this because they really have a passion for each item? Or is it something else? And that's what I wanted to get out of this conversation that I'm having with everybody in the panel tonight, is just the thought process of it. And us as Jersey heads too, I feel like we're part of that vintage community in some way, because we are collecting things of that were back in like the 80s, like Snacks, and Bay Area. You guys are into like the old school Ebbets flannels, which are like styles of jerseys that were worn like in the 1900s, some like even the late 1800s, like, which is fascinating to me. But let me go over this last point. Or actually, no, there's two more points, but let me go over these last 2 points here. But it says here, the way we present our vintage matters. New boots are watering down the importance of our vintage. It's like cutting the drugs and the customer doesn't know any different, but it's not the good stuff. It's like, quote, I can't find that vintage shirt, so I'll make one. This idea is bringing our prices down and will slowly kill the specialness of our vintage community. Think about it. So obviously it sounds like the person that made these posts are looking at it from a seller standpoint.
Yeah.
So us as consumers, like,
I think it almost feels like, as somebody I sell jerseys, obviously, that, but it's funny how the vintage, the old gold Mitchell and Ness jerseys that I could sell to you for $120 shipped, but Mitchell and Ness has it on the website for $300. So you rather get that. It's kind of, I think it should be the opposite. The old gold should be costing more than retail, but in the jersey game, it's not like that. It's funny to me. Like, to me, a made in USA Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Lakers jersey, I should be able to sell that for over retail than the one you can find on Mitchell and Ness. It's just funny how the jersey game don't work like that. Yeah. Why is my old gold I gotta sell for $120, but you're willing to spend $300 on a newer Mitchell and Ness jersey that's not as great quality as the old gold? It's just funny how that shit works. You know what I'm saying? Why isn't my old gold why can't I sell my old gold for $300? And why people won't jump on it? People are like, oh my God, $300 for old gold Mitchell and Ness jersey? That's dope. That's a great deal. But it's not. That's fun. It's crazy to me how that works. When you're getting quality and you're getting a more authentic feel. But yeah,
it's hard to know what really moves the needle as far as sell. Now, I can only speak as a consumer. I don't sell, but it is. It's one of those kind of weird, kind of things, because you'll have like Snack said, you'll have some of the new stuff, and then you'll have it side by side with one of their old, and not just Mitchell and Ness, any like a vintage gem, another company, something that looks, incredible, and that price is half the price of the $300 price point for Mitchell and Ness, but yet more people kind of are drawn to the Mitchell. And I don't know, just because it's something new, and someone wants to say they got the newest, latest, and greatest type thing over, an older run jersey and that type of stuff. It's almost like and I'm not huge into video games. It's almost like the video game aspect too. Like everyone wants the newest game, the newest video game system, right? And yet the vintage stuff is what people still are, have that nostalgia to. But yet the newest stuff, this is where they need to get this and this and this and this and this, and then maybe some of the other stuff is just kind of sitting there, It's weird. It's a dive into the psyche that, it would be really interesting if there was some sort of research done, like what moves the needle for certain things. Why is it that new stuff is what draws more attention than the stuff that might be better quality, older stuff, harder to find? It's just, it's something that, definitely would be fascinating to find out the real reason for. Is it because it's a trend thing? Is it because this is what people are going after and wearing on shows or in magazines or what? And this is why they have to have it? I don't know, but it would be a fascinating research to do that I'm not going to do, but some other people out there want to do it.
There should be, somebody should do a social experiment and like.
Like I said, I don't repeat myself. I just don't understand why my old gold ain't worth more than what Mitchell and Ness has on the website right now.
Your guess is just.
But a vintage hat costs more than a Mitchell and Ness hat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see the logic there, man. I got like all my jerseys I sell for the low, and they're all like vintage jerseys that you can't, like vintage Mitchell and Ness jerseys that you can't really find every day.
Yeah.
But you're spending $300 on the latest shit.
Right.
I think when it comes to jerseys, people just aren't. A lot of people who buy jerseys are just as knowledgeable as in other arenas when it comes to like shoes or hats or whatever, so they don't realize I
disagree with that. I disagree with that because right now, if I try to sell, I just got that Mike Schmidt jersey. I mean, the Steve Carlton jersey.
Remember me when you want to move it. Just that.
No. Well, no. I'm gonna use another example. I have a Brett Favre's Falcons Mitchell and Ness jersey, made in USA. For sale. You know what I'm saying? If I
lose them.
I tell Mighty fan like, bro, Mighty would look at me like, it's fucking crazy. I would never spend $300 on that. Like, why not? It's a vintage. It's vintage. You know what I'm saying? Well, you're saying no because I don't know why, but Mitchell and Ness has it for $300 on the website, which is crappier and more boxier.
Yeah.
You will spend the $300 on that. I don't understand the lot. Yeah, some people don't know. But would you, if I sell you, would you buy a $300 Ebbett Fields flannels jersey for me? No, you fucking won't. Like, you fucking crazy.
I mean that example just don't work though, because Ebbett Fields don't even sell it for $300. So I can get the.
No, but I'm saying
the price is going up though.
Yeah.
Yeah, their price is going. But my pitch to you is you don't have to wait 8 weeks, man. You can have it tomorrow.
That's true. I mean, for me, with Mitchell and Ness, if you have an old Mitchell and Ness jersey that they remake now again, and you have an older one, I'll rather spend $300 for your older one than the new one, just because I know it's gonna be better, and it's gonna be more authentic to the original actual thing.
That shit. If I post right now, that New York Nets Julius Erving jersey, I can't fucking give that shit away. if Mitchell and Ness, Mitchell and Ness has it, whatever, they have it on the website for $300, and you have mine made in USA, size 56. People won't spend $300 on my shit. They'd rather spend the $300 on the newer shit.
I wish that was a 52.
I don't understand the logic there.
Yeah,
I do kind of like the cut of the new one though. I have to.
I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it too. Snacks is just like it's how it's promoted. I mean, obviously you're posting it for sale, you're putting it on eBay, but I think it's like people would choose Mitchell and Ness over that because hundreds and thousands of people know who Mitchell and Ness is, but hundreds of thousands of people don't know who Throwback King is. So I mean,
but it's still a Mitchell and Ness jersey though.
It's still a Mitchell and Ness jersey. Yeah. But
I'm talking about the product itself, not the person that's selling.
I guarantee you, though, if people knew that, like, let's say Throwback King was affiliated with Mitchell and Ness, like he was an authorized retailer, in a heartbeat, his stuff would sell. I think because people are unsure, they want to make sure they're buying something legit, even though everything that Albert sells is legit. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just a matter of that stamp of approval. Like, is he legit or is he not? You know what I mean?
Right.
But it sucks because you just pointed it out. You're selling something that is a better quality, that is more original to the brand. I feel like it was during a time when it was at its peak, and you're selling it for literally a fraction of what Mitchell and Ness is currently selling on their website. So why would you choose anything different? That's the only thing I could think of. Let me go to this final point here on this post here, but the last and final reason says sellers who haven't fully embraced vintage as an idea are showing their true colors by making all these new items under their quote-unquote vintage branding. Bottom line, once you really care about vintage as an idea, you never wear new clothing. And then it has a little emoji here where it says reduce, reuse, recycle. So this is something that I was talking to my fiance about because she's into a lot of like older style vintage clothing as well. So she's neutral about it. Like she understands why it's great to support vintage clothing because you're basically reusing clothing. You're using it, you're not wasteful as opposed to mass producing something and just using resources and fabrics to create something else when you could just be more friendly to the environment and stuff like that. But I feel like where it starts to get lost in translation is when you start pricing it at points. I think for me personally, I feel like if you're going to price something for that's a vintage like caliber, like I feel like you got to be reasonable with it. Cause like, I mean, just to me, like $500 for a t-shirt is just nuts. Like
what sets the price? You think it's whoever buying it at $500, right? They set the bar.
Right. So again, like first off, I need to know who's setting these prices, who's making the market. Like it's the same thing like with sneakers. Where's StockX getting these prices? Because everybody's like, oh, StockX is selling it for this much. GOAT has it for this much. Who's making those prices? Who's determining that? I want to know. Is there like a committee? Is there like a?
To me, it only takes one person. That's it to set the market. If nobody buys it at $500, they have to lower their price to $300. If somebody buys it at $300, that's the bar. You know what I'm saying? It only takes one fucking person. That's what's happening. It takes one person to set that bar.
Yeah. I was just highlighting Mac's comment. This was from the last post, but he was saying they probably think yours could be fake because of lack of education.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say if someone knows they're getting it from you, they'll probably be willing to pay the price. But people who don't know you, they don't know what if it's real or not. So they're gonna go to Mitchell, and that's where they know it's gonna be real for sure.
Like, okay, so Mac, you said if someone is willing to pay the asking, there it is. Yeah, I understand that, but what I want to know is who's setting that price. Who is that person? You know how you said it's that one. All it takes is one person. Who is that person? And who's going to take that person's word as opposed to the general person who be like, I'm not spending more than $25 on a t-shirt type of thing. Like, that's what I want to know, because obviously
if you're not willing to spend 25, there's somebody else who's willing to spend 26. There's somebody else who's willing to spend 27. There's always that somebody that, so like I said, not everybody has the same bank account here. You know what I'm saying? Some people just whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to spend whatever it takes to have that shirt because I'm going to this vintage party and I need that shirt. So I'm willing to spend whatever I need to be that guy that has that shirt at a vintage party that I'm going to. And that's the only reason they're buying it. They're not even into vintage, but they set that fucking bar. And once that bar is set, you have that same t-shirt, and we're like, oh, but like the last eBay sale was 500. I'm giving you a deal at 480. You know what I'm saying? That bar is set. And the bar, I don't think that bar can go higher. Because like I said, it could be that one dude that's not into vintage. He just wants it to go because he's going to a 90s party and he just want to wear it and he has money like that. And once you see that eBay sold, oh, this jersey this shirt sold for $500, cool. That's gonna be my price. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me if you have a shirt that's worth $500, you won't try to sell it for $500?
Right. So Mac, like I said, just to kind of go, you said the seller. I know it's the seller who's setting the price, but who is the seller? Is it John Smith? Is it, and where did John Smith get that price? Oh, I got it from this guy. Okay, where did this guy get the price? I want to know who's the very first person that set the bar for that price, and I want to talk to that person and ask them, where did you get this price point from? How did you determine the price of this? How did you mark this Dare t-shirt at $100 or whatever the price?
It comes down to it. They throw a number to the wall. If it sticks, it sticks. Mm-hmm. That's your answer.
Yeah, crazy.
If it sticks, it sticks. Sometimes it's the opposite way. With me, I gotta lower my price to get a sell. You know what I'm saying? I gotta make sure, like, yo, that some people will buy a jersey, they really don't want it, but they just can't pass up on the deal. If I sell that Julius Erving jersey for $50 and I put it on Kings of Throwback right now for $50 shipped, I don't care if Mighty Mouse have that jersey 2 times. He was like, Mighty Mouse will probably be like, man, $50. I'll take 50. I'll take another for $50. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it works the opposite way. With me, if I lower, like I said, if I put that jersey on Kings of Throwbacks for $50, my fucking DMs will be full. Yo, PayPal ready. Let's go. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of works both ways on the opposite end. But to me, it always comes like, yo, somebody's gonna throw that number to the wall if it sticks and somebody bites. If nobody bites within a week, let me lower like $10. It's gonna keep going lower until somebody fucking bites. And shout out to if y'all know if you saw Sarge. He made a post about a jersey that he sold for what $400-$500, that Bruins jersey, and they kept telling him that price is too high. That price is too high, and somebody bought it. You know, somebody eventually bought it. It sat on eBay forever, but somebody bought it.
Yeah,
he held to his price. So I respect
that. What's my bad, Big John? You wanted to say something, right?
Yeah, I gotta say something, man. It's been good talking to you guys, man. I gotta get to the bed, and it was good talking to y'all, and y'all have a nice night.
We know you're gonna watch
AEW. Minister.
All right, Big John.
What'd you say, Rez?
No, I was joking. I was like, we know you're gonna watch AEW. I'm just kidding.
I already watched AEW, man. You know I can't miss my AEW. But before I go, I gotta say about the Sarge, man. You know, yesterday, he showed me some love. I bought my Eagles, TO from him, the Reebok, and I gotta say something. Since we were talking about the whole vintage thing, someone in the groups today was posted a picture of TO and with the Super Bowl patch, and they were like, I wish Mitchell and Ness will make this, and someone in the comment was like, you could just get the Reebok one for cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. Since I already got the TO, all I need is that Super Bowl patch. So keep a lookout for me, guys. And I had fun with y'all, but I gotta get to sleep. Peace out, and Mighty, you be good, man.
You too, Minister.
See you, brother.
All right, Big John, take it easy, brother. Have a good night. All right, let me read Mac's comments real quick because he said, just to piggyback off of what I was saying earlier. He said it's based on what they're willing to get to sell the shirt. Some people use comps. Some people just say the shirt is dope. I'll sell it for 500. If I don't get 500, I don't care. I'll keep it. They should use sold listings to determine comps, but people are greedy and always push the boundaries. No, for sure.
Yeah.
For some people, but I mean, look at right now. I'm gonna use the current. It's not vintage right now, but like, look at the city editions right now. If you look on eBay for the ones that sold out, the Steph Curry City Edition that they're wearing this season is
$700.
$400-$700.
It's like Supreme, you know. It's like the streetwear Supreme and stuff like that too. Like I know, like a couple of years ago, you know, it just seems like that's what they would do is they would just go on there, like you said, and like bots and stuff like that. They literally just buy it, jack the price up, and here we go, you know. So it's just
it's the thing is,
it's crazy.
I think the thing about it also is, you know, we live in a viral world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything is just copied off of. So if one person has success doing it, other people are going to jump in, and the more people that have success selling it at these prices, it's just going to keep getting more and more. You know, that's what happened with the hat game. You know, and I know there's been all these horror stories about the sneaker game. I'm not in that world, but the hat game, you know, last year the fitted hats just started blowing up. And one of the reasons is because people found like a resale value in them. And these are the new hats that just come out from Hat Club and Lids and all these places, right? All it took was one person putting that, and I don't know who it was, putting it on eBay and selling it for like $200-$300, just a fitted hat. And then it just became that chase of people thinking that, oh, let's see how if we can sell this for this. And, you know, these hats just sell out so quick. And it's that supply and demand thing, right? So people really want it. How high are they willing to go? And it's almost like a Price is Right game with these hats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're getting them and they're putting them up on eBay and Macari and all the $300-$400 for these hats. And it's nuts. It's really crazy, and it makes it really tough, you know, for the average like consumer like myself to get some of these things before they're gone in an instant. Same thing with the city edition jerseys, right? They're gone in an instant because, and it's not just because of people like us wanting to buy them to wear. It's the resellers buying them, you know, using these bots to buy them all up so they can throw them up online for crazy prices because they know they can do it because they're not available anywhere else. So but all it takes is that one time. And again, I don't have that answer, but it takes one person to have success selling it at a price, and then other people want that part of that piece of pie. Because it's agreed. Everyone wants it, right? Particularly when we're in this pandemic situation. People aren't working. They're selling more stuff. They're getting stuff just to sell, and because it's easy money, right? It's quick money. It's quick cash. And it kind of really made it even worse at the pandemic with it, because it really took something that was already at a level and it increased it tenfold. And it just it happened. And it's like you snapped the fingers. It was like just sheer luck, sheer dumb luck, I guess it was, that one person sold a fitted hat for $400 or $500, and I guess they made a big deal of it, so everyone starts coming in and doing, oh, this is easy money, and that's just how it happens. Like I said, we live in a viral world, right? Something happens, it goes viral. Everyone wants to do it. TikTok videos, that, the other thing. Everyone wants a piece of it. You know, that instant success. You know, and it is what it is, and I'm sure that's how it is with the vintage T-shirts or hats or what have you. If one thing sells for a certain price, then other people are going to try to do it and make that quick money.
I'm still waiting for the mighty fan OnlyFans page.
Now that's bad Baywatch. You don't want that.
J Mac, what up, man?
I'm sensing a lot of heat between J Mac and the Reds, man. What's going on, man? I feel like I gotta talk about something, man.
Well, there's nothing to talk about.
Where's that tracking number, J Mac? We waiting for that tracking number.
Nobody sent. He got it in his DM. We got the tracking.
We got a Heat fan and a Warriors fan
Heat versus
betting on a
Warriors.
Clippers jersey. That made no sense. I saw that video. I was like, I thought y'all was gonna buy each other like your team's jerseys. And y'all both bet for a Clippers jersey.
Oh no!
Which
Well,
is
here's the
fine.
thing. I mean, we didn't specify what the jersey would be, or the shoe.
Oh, okay.
It was basically so the bet was basically whoever has the better record between the Heat and Warriors at the end of the regular season has to send that person. So if the Heat had a better record than the Warriors, keep in mind there's still plenty of time left in the NBA, so the Heat could turn it around. But J-Mac was like, "Yo, we're not gonna."
There's no catching up.
Yeah,
You threw in the top two. It's not even All-Star weekend. It's not even All-Star weekend, and you already gave up.
I know.
Nah, but come on. If you look at the records, the Warriors gonna have to lose like 10 in a row, and the Heat gonna have to win 10 in a row. It's not
It
happening.
happened. I've seen worse
What
things
if
happen to the Warriors.
Steph Curry breaks his
only
fucking
way-
head?
COVID out there.
Knock on wood.
The only way is if Curry's out for the season. That's the only way.
I mean, look, it was a fun bet, you know,
It
but
could happen. It could take. What are you gonna do if it does happen?
I mean, there's no turning back. The bet's over.
There's no turning back. Wait, so that means I won actually. If that happens,
How did you
Oh,
win? You gave up. You
No,
threw in the
Yeah,
towel.
you threw in the towel.
if it were to actually happen, I'm saying.
Nah, I specifically said I was like, so you're giving up. That officially means that you're throwing in the towel, and you're like,
Now
You're not gonna come back.
I really want the Heat to win now.
That's a violation. That's a violation. I had to get on. TJ the other day for wearing a Bills jersey to a Bills Patriots jersey.
I was surprised with that because
He's a Patriots fan. He's wearing a
Yeah, I
Bills
was like-
jersey. It's a rival. You got to support your team. But at any rate, I mean, J-Mac, you have to have a little more faith in
that's
your
what I
team.
told him. That's
J
why
man,
I was like,
don't listen to a Sixers fan, man. You're
Yeah.
good, man. Don't worry
No,
about it.
no, I'm not fully invested until Simmons is out. But no,
Simmons has nothing. Look, I'm sorry to bring up Simmons, but we look pretty bad without Simmons right now.
yeah, we look bad in the playoffs too with him. But anyhow,
We can use Simmons right now. Let it go, man.
it's okay.
Let it go.
But
Let it go.
I mean, you have to have faith.
I have a lot of faith. I still think.
How you have faith and you look?
You're
and
giving
you-
up now. It's not the
No,
even
And
the All-Star
you're
break.
damning Ben Simmons. He's talking about give faith.
No,
Do
I think the Heat is a championship contender.
I'm a realist.
The Heat is a championship
I'm a
contender.
realist.
Just because they're gonna finish with the worse record than the Warriors doesn't mean that they're not gonna win the championship. I have a lot.
Holy shit!
I got a lot of faith.
okay,
That's,
all right.
there's faith and there's like and there's Scientology.
They just made it to the finals.
You're the Scientology.
They just
You're
made,
Scientology right now.
they just made it to the finals 2 seasons ago with basically the same team. But
In the bubble.
so what?
Stop, yo. Why y'all keep talking about the past, man? So the Raiders won a Super Bowl back in the 80s.
All right, but
This should be good.
Look at this. This is my DM. I'm gonna show you the DMs. between
Oh
J-Mac.
man,
I
this is
said,
putting you on
"So
front
you're
street, yo.
throwing in the towel today. No turning back
Screenshot,
now
screenshot.
if the Heat start cooking for the rest of the season."
yeah,
and
I
then
threw in
J-Mac
the
said,
towel on the bet. Yeah.
"Yeah," he said they won't. So that's his way of. That's basically him throwing in the towel, saying he lost. the
Yeah,
bet. So
they
even if-
won't, but they will.
won't have a better
They'll win the
record.
championship.
They won't have a better record, but they may go deeper in the playoffs. That's for sure.
Oh, no doubt.
I think
No
they
doubt. You
might-
guys
Wait, you went from winning a championship to deeper in the playoffs. See, gradually you're going. You're
I
getting.
never said they're going to win a championship. I said they could. I
That's
said
not
they're-
what you said. That's not what you said
Oh.
during power rankings, dude. You were like, "Oh, they're undefeated
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
you said.
preseason."
What are you talking about?
On the preseason live,
Well, we
when
were
we were
doing the
doing power
preseason.
you were like, "Oh no, the Heat, they're on fire. They got Adebayo. They're undefeated in the preseason." And then Snacks is like, "But that's the preseason, bro. Like that don't matter."
Well, I don't understand what you're saying. You're claiming that I actually said though. That's
No, you're insinuating that like the Heat was like the best team in the East. Like, that's the
it might
vibe.
be. It might be. When it's all said and done, they might be.
All right, man. I'm just saying. I
We
mean,
just beat the Bucks tonight with no Bam and no Butler. They just beat the
But
Bucks.
Okay, I'm
the regular season don't even matter
Regular season
anymore, man.
games.
Here we go.
I
So
don't
now
watch
the regular
basketball.
season doesn't matter either.
There's no game planning
I-
in the regular
It doesn't
season.
matter until after
You
All Star
load
Weekend.
management in the regular season.
Nothing matters except for who wins the championship.
No, it does. I haven't watched one game. I only wait till after the All Star Weekend, because then you can determine who's gonna be in the playoffs. That's it. After that, that's when you kind of know. Then people are just fighting for 8th place for the 8th seed.
I think it's
all
pretty
I'm
much-
saying. All
Yeah.
I'm saying is, my Dubs right now, we still number one.
Right now.
Now we doing great things, and we don't even have Klay Thompson. I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I'm gonna say that if we get Klay Thompson back at 80%, at least 80%, Warriors are winning the chip. And if we're healthy,
Bro, do you think Klay Thompson's gonna fuck up whatever rhythm they got going on right now?
nope, I don't think so. I think he's
11
only gonna
dribbles,
make it better.
65 points or something. He's not fucking up chemistry. He already knows their
there's no
system,
way.
and he
There's
doesn't
no way that he's
he
gonna
took
mess.
4 dribbles. The man took 4 dribbles to score like 60 points.
If anything,
That's
I
all
feel
in the
like
past, bro.
I feel like with Wiggins and Klay, that role is gonna have to be modified a little bit, because Klay is going to be the shooting guard once he's back, and obviously Wiggins may be.
I can't wait for the trading deadline.
It's gonna be crazy, bro. But I'm like super hyped because Klay Thompson's supposed to be back by Christmas week. And who are we playing Christmas week? We're playing the Suns. We're playing the Suns on Christmas Day. So if Klay comes back, that's a good Christmas gift for a Dubs fan.
Last season fooled me. Last season, the way the Warriors performed. I know they had injuries, but look at this season, right? Versus last season. Okay, they had injuries before, but I would still have expected them to do better than they did, given like all this great chemistry, all these role players. Like, nobody expected Gary Payton II to like become a superstar. And like this other guy, what's his name? The other guy. Poole, exactly. Nobody even knew who this guy was, and all of a sudden they're playing like
I'm telling you, and again, I'm not coming from somebody who just like watches basketball. The rhythm and the depth that the Warriors have right now is almost like that of the Kevin Durant.
I wouldn't rush Klay back. Just let him chill until like a month before the playoffs.
So he's already cleared. He's already cleared to play. He's scrimmaging 5-on-5, just not in actual games. But the Warriors are sitting him out because they don't want to risk him.
Too. For what?
There's no point.
Exactly.
Why?
So but my point is though, if we're winning already,
yeah,
and we don't have a key player like Klay Thompson who's playing, and we're winning with this record, that says something. I don't care what team it is. I don't care if it's Dubs. I don't care if that was like the Bucks or the Heat. If a team is like that is winning, and you literally have like young guys who don't have that playoff finals experience, like
remember having the best record in the league doesn't guarantee you a championship.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't.
It doesn't. I mean, my San Francisco Giants are a perfect example of that.
Well, they weren't going to win with Gabe. Don't worry about that.
I will say you're going Minnesota Wild.
I will say this, and I believe me, we all know how my affection for Steph Curry's game. I love watching him. The Warriors are kind of like a kindred spirit team to me because they started in Philly. I have a lot of respect for them and their, how they changed their franchise around and what it took for them to start to win. I will say this, and I mean, listen, you take it for what it is. The Warrior fans are starting to get a little too much. A little too much.
Facts.
I remember after the
humble yourself.
No, let me finish. I remember earlier in the season after they beat the Sixers at the Chase Center, and the Warrior fans were all in Sixers Twitter, like, "Oh, look at us, look at us." The Sixers didn't even have Embiid playing in that game. I mean, the Sixers were not the Sixers in that game, and they were giving it to the Sixer fans. Like, we're suffering. To be a Sixer fan is to suffer. That's what it is. And Warrior fans used to remember what that was. And I know that they've won, and it's like when you reach the mountaintop and the summit, and you're that dynasty, and like you were at the lowest of the low, and then you're at the highest of the high. But now it's almost like it's supposed to be us, right? They're supposed to win, right? This is, it's like they kind of became this, they were the lovable fan. Now they're kind of, I don't want to say Laker-esque, but it's kind of.
Nah, don't even put the
Rez.
You're talking about
I'm not
17
saying
championships
you, but I'm
and 6
saying
championships.
in general, I think the
Huge.
Warrior fans are starting to turn, and I don't like that because I like the Warrior, I like the fans, the Bay, the pride, right? But now it's I don't know. I looked at some of those tweets after that. I started feeling a certain way. I'm like, come on now. You can't tell me you don't remember what it was like to lose when Jay Rich and all of them were there in the losing seasons. Now that you have some bling, it's like this. You got to stay humble. You can't just turn into this monster.
Before it was we believe, it's we believe you suck.
Now it went from we believe to we have to have.
Hey, Rez, hold up, Mighty. Hold up. I know I agree with you 100%, but this is the same guy. As soon as the Eagles won, bro, the Eagles are this, the Eagles are that. We fly, Eagle, fly. Nobody can beat us. That was in the heat of the moment. You still talk about that Super Bowl like it happened last year. So.
But I'm not like that. Now, maybe because the Eagles only won the one. So,
that was just one.
If they've won like 3 out of the last 4 or something, I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe it was just seeing those comments after they beat the Sixers and the Warrior fans were all, like they just beat us in the finals or something. It's like it's a regular season game without our best players on the court, and you guys are really going to stick it to it? Really? That wasn't nice, okay? I have to deal with a guy that won't score the basketball here. Okay?
Oh, my God. He hasn't played yet. Let it go, man.
Another can of worms with Ben Simmons.
Bro, my God. My thing is, we're better with Ben Simmons. Look at our record now. We suck. We fucking suck. We suck.
In the playoffs.
Oh,
my God.
Did we get to the Eastern Finals?
We suck.
Trae Young.
Look.
I have wounds. Okay.
Hey,
let it go, man.
Imagine being a Vikings fan this year. Good God, I'm surprised I'm not in the grave at this point with how many close games we have.
My thing is, though, with the Warriors, so, like, I'm not speaking on behalf of the entire fan base. You're going on Twitter.
Yeah, you are right now.
There's a lot of there's a lot of trollers on Twitter. Like, I'm not like that's the worst place to go to assess fan bases of teams. Because Twitter is like full of shit talkers, trollers, memes. Social media is, but like,
wait, weren't you trolling the shit out of J-Mac for like a month?
Yeah, because that's different because we were betting. So I keep my receipts. All right,
keep the receipts.
I'm gonna cash in this receipt right now. I'm gonna show y'all.
Yeah, for real. This is the quietest I've ever seen J-Mac for real on one of these lives.
Look at this. Look at this. Okay, this was like maybe the first like 10 or 11 games into the season. All right, look at this.
Oh Lord.
Oh.
Are the Warriors for real? Kind of.
Look at this.
Who have they been beating lately?
It was true.
Oh, just the Pelicans.
Just the Pelicans.
The Rockets. And the Thunder. How impressive is that, guys? First in defense. Not hard to be first in defense when you're playing the worst offensive teams.
So that right there,
you gotta play yours now. Now you gotta play yours.
As a Warriors fan, that triggered me because I was like, "Yo."
See, we don't know the background story to it.
So the thing is, okay, your whole thing, J-Mag, was that, okay, the Warriors haven't had a tough schedule at that
That was
time,
totally true.
which is true. I'll give you that. But then we played the Bulls, who was like the top 3 in the East at the time. We beat them, with the exception of them not having their center or something. We played Philly, and no offense, Mighty, but we beat them. We played Brooklyn, and we stomped them, and they had everybody except for Kyrie. And
after they beat Brooklyn, I was a believer.
I'm saying that's why I did. If you follow my stories on IG, you see that Birdman thing.
You can't expect me to be a believer after they go 10-0 against sub 500 teams. They played like one good team in the first 10 games.
But my point is, though, like the fact that we're winning games like that, but we lose to teams like San Antonio or the Grizzlies, like you see what I mean, though. Like
Grizzlies are really good now.
They're good, but I'm saying though, my correlation though is that like these teams that they're losing against are teams that you wouldn't expect them to lose to. Like obviously they have what they call trap games, where it's like, man, this game wasn't our night. We were tired. And they're real. So the fact that the Warriors went 10, I think it was 10-0 or whatever our record was before we lost our first game against Memphis, like that to me was already like, yo, this team means something. We don't have Klay Thompson. We don't have James Wiseman. We're literally sitting out Iguodala right now, who's our 6th man, and we're using.
Wait, are we supposed to feel sorry for you? You're like, oh my God, we're the number one team in the league. We don't have
it's a tough life, man.
As a Warriors fan, where we lost the chip against Toronto in the finals, and we lost Kevin Durant. Going to Brooklyn, and for people looking at Klay Thompson getting injured with his Achilles or whatever.
As long as you have Steph Curry, you good, man. Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, even then, Steph Curry was injured, so everybody was saying the Warriors are done. That era is ended.
Play your video where you're imitating me. That was funny.
Nah, I'm not putting
play
that
it,
out.
Play it. That was funny.
No. I don't want to put that out. But
hey, it's all love, though. It is. It's all love, guys. Honest to God, I just want you all to stay humble.
That's all I'm saying. Yo, I'm not saying nothing. I'm not gonna be showboating until we win the chip. But I posted this.
Bro, every day you're posting the Warriors score. That's not being humble.
It's being humble because it's showing you guys, man, that
it's funny how you post all the wins, but you don't post the losses.
Oh no!
See, right there.
That's not true. I posted when we lost to the Spurs. I specifically said the Spurs capitalized tonight. Props to Pop. I gave respect to the Spurs that night, so I'm acknowledging losses. But we're not losing that much.
I can't post anything on Instagram. The Flyers lost 10 straight games. The Sixers are the Sixers.
Yeah. The Sixers.
He's just.
I mean, what can I post?
The only thing I can remotely post about right now is the Wild. I mean, the Vikings are basically putting every week.
If we're talking about hockey, man, I don't know what to say about my Sharks no more, man. To me, no offense, but the Sharks to me are like they're like the Sacramento Kings of the NHL. I'm sorry.
Jesus, that's
but they got to a final.
We never win. We've never won a championship, and the Sharks have been around since '91, and we have not won one single Stanley Cup. Like,
hello.
Minnesota Wild,
horrible.
I mean, I got the Super Bowl, I got the World Series, but I do want to see a cup one year, and it's been 47 years for the Flyers. It's been like at some point they gotta stop getting out of their own way.
It's been 31 years since
and stop saying, "Oh, it's the coach." It's always the coach. It's never the players. I don't.
All we need is Sidney Crosby to retire and this guy retire and Ovechkin to retire, and we're good.
It doesn't matter, Snacks, because then the Hurricanes are going to be the big team then, or the Blue Jackets. One of those teams are going to be the next jump.
Regardless of what happens, the Maple Leafs will always be on the front page news. But anyway,
it's horrible when you got Florida teams dominating the NHL. That's it doesn't snow there. Enough. Damn it!
Don't get me started on that, man. I mean, the fact that we had that one Stanley Cup final run against the Penguins and we lost.
I get it. I understand it. Believe me.
I was gonna say they're more like the A's who go to the playoffs every year and get knocked out the first round every single year.
Oh, the A's. I feel
that's what the Sharks remind me of the A's.
Don't get me started on the Phillies. Oh boy.
Again, don't get me started on the Vikings or the Wild Vikings mainly.
5.
Yeah.
Why do you think I make videos? Hey,
you know who else is like frustrating the hell out of me is my Niners, man. I can't deal, dude. Like
trash.
Well,
and the sad part is there's like a literally hell. I mean, your Eagles are right in the middle of this right now.
Yeah, but Rez, your Niners are playing a little bit. Well, Jake.
Well, not last game.
We just lost. We got spanked by the Seahawks. Like,
Jake,
who kept trying to give us the game, and we just kept giving it back.
Yeah,
that got us ahead of you.
Wait a minute! Didn't the Vikings just give the Lions their first win?
They did.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man,
that's all we needed was for your Raiders to win against the damn football team, and we would have been in the playoffs right now. Damn,
bro, that's what I'm saying. We beat the Cowboys, then lose to the Redskins.
Well, thanks for that.
That made no sense. They had no Chase Young, no Sweat.
I had a good Thanksgiving. It's always good.
The Raiders, every week is Raiders of something.
Mm-hmm. And then the AFC makes no sense either. Like it seems like whenever one team gets the number 1 seed, they get blown out by like the 16th seed of them.
I think Mac's team is back with a vengeance again.
Unfortunately,
Mac, that's the easy fan table though. The
little Patriots run. They've been playing some scrub ass teams though.
Well, but decades of nothing
run?
but winning.
Yeah,
seems to make
Mac
sense.
Jones, his namesake, Mac Jones out now. You know they have one bad year and then they get another quarterback.
You know what's
just
funny?
not fair.
I was talking to my pops about this, and my pops is so mad that the Niners drafted Trey Lance because he was like, he's like, I don't know anything about this kid. I don't know why they didn't draft Justin Fields or Mac Jones.
I told you about those North Dakota State quarterbacks, didn't I? I told you. I've experienced with them.
You can't. I mean, he's a rookie, man. You can't.
Well, I think he didn't play.
I saw Carson Wentz when I was in
college career. He didn't even have a college career.
He played like one game, right?
He played like a couple games. That's it.
That's like what the same thing with James Wiseman for the Warriors. He didn't
play like 3
games.
games.
Basketball,
like 3 games.
Football,
man.
you have to have at least some experience, bro.
So I mean, I don't know what Lynch and Kyle Shanahan's idea was. With signing him, I don't know what their thought process was with it.
The hype was real, man.
It's crazy. It's super, super crazy.
It's crazy. It happens every NFL draft because I love college football, and once the NFL draft starts, I'm like, who the fuck are they projecting? Like, who is this quarterback? Where the hell did he? They didn't talk about him all season, and out of nowhere, they're predicting him to be the first pick in the draft. I'm like, Carson Wentz. I ain't hear about Carson Wentz into the fucking.
I heard of him.
I heard of him.
I actually saw him play against.
I heard of him, but him to be a first round pick, I'm like, what the fuck? The biggest one was Tannehill. Tannehill was garbage at North Carolina, and I'm thinking like, why is this dude projected to be the first pick in the draft? And they moved up to pick him up. I'm like, bro, the NFL is weird when it comes to quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I mean, Wentz did kind of help us the one year get the record we had to get the number 1 to get home field throughout the playoffs, which did help. But I don't know. I will never say that you can't get players out of the non-power conferences because you can.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You really have to hit on those guys. It's like it. I hate to keep mentioning this, but the Eagles some years ago had a chance at Justin Jefferson. Instead, they get Jalen Reagor, and it's like, I mean, Justin Jefferson.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's what I hate about you. You can't do that because at the time, the pick made sense. Like when the Raiders drafted Jamarcus Russell, that pick made sense for us. He was really. Whoa! Time out. You're talking about my Raiders now. I know. I watch a lot of college football. When we drafted Jamarcus Russell, that was a great pick for us because he's a big quarterback, He had a huge game in the bowl games. He was a great athlete at LSU. He was dope.
Yeah.
But we can't predict what the fuck he was going to do in the NFL. Everybody kept saying, man, we could have had Calvin Johnson. We could have had Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that, but we drafted at the time we drafted, it made sense. But once you draft and the other players are good, like, man, we could have had this player. Like, you didn't know they were going to be that good. They're just in a good
at the time of the pick, though, I will say, I mean, you know, speaking as the Eagle fan in the room, I will say that in the overall consensus from us was we wanted Jefferson because he led the toughest conference in receiving and balled out in the playoffs and the national championship game. Like, that was the guy we want. And they drafted Rager out of TCU, which none of us hardly heard anything about. And part of the reason they drafted him, funny enough, was because he was good at returning punts and kicks, which he does nothing. Now he lets the ball go over his head and they down it inside the 5 every time. The guy's almost like, and it's early. It's hard because he's only been in the league a few years. It just seems like he's a waste. And Jefferson's balling out with the Vikings every week. And
it seems like that now because he not all draft picks are going to be a home run. That's what I'm saying. We drafted Ruggs. Ruggs was going to be our fucking Pro Bowl receiver, and he's fucking drunk driving motherfucker. Like, look at that shit. Yo,
there's no
not every draft pick is going to be a home
run. I don't work in the GM office, and you know it's always easy, as you say, to do the armchair quarterbacking.
Josh Jacobs, he got a DUI, right, or something like that, or didn't he?
Yeah, he was driving 157 on the street.
No, that's Ruggs.
Oh,
no,
something happened with Josh Jacobs. He was like suspended or something. Not this season, like last season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, last season you guys did some shit.
Mac mentioned Metcalf, but see, a lot of teams passed on Metcalf. That was the thing, and that's what
I'm saying.
Chagrin with too, but he went late in the second round. Right?
I just feel like certain players that are dominating in college, they just go back to the wrong system in the NFL.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of like to me, Namdi. Namdi was one of the greatest fucking corners for the Raiders, but he went to the fucking Eagles. They had a whole different defensive scheme. Namdi was a man-to-man fucking corner. Y'all went to a fucking zone.
He had the offensive line coach as the defensive coordinator at the time.
That's what I'm saying. Like Namdi was awesome for the Raiders, but he went to the Eagles. He was garbage. It wasn't the Eagles' fault. It wasn't Namdi's fault. It was just the type of defensive back he was. He was a man-to-man. He wasn't playing zone. Like he was getting killed.
Yeah, that he helped produce the Salsa Man for the Giants, Victor Cruz.
Oh,
he burned him a few. That's what started Victor Cruz was the game in Philly against the Eagles and Namdi. He just burned him, and then he started doing the salsa dance, and the rest was history. But it is what it is, man. But we can go all night about the hits and misses, but it is. It's just it's an inexact science.
Hey, when you hit, you hit. When you miss, you miss. That's the thing. That's the perfect thing about the draft, man.
It is what
and
it
then
is.
you always find a quarterback in the fucking 6th round that becomes a fucking Hall of Famer.
Yeah, multiple times over. Yeah.
So I know we kind of got off topic again.
Way off topic.
No, really. I just want to answer. I just want to ask a question across the room here, real quick. But like going back to the topic tonight about like vintage, and just the whole community as a whole. Like, if you could change one thing, I guess I don't know if the word change is the right word, but like, if there's something that you would like to see amongst like the vintage community and like brands that are recreating these vintage pieces, what would you like to see, like, for a common ground for both?
Well, I would just kind of like to see so much like less animosity, I guess, or just a lot less, bickering or like going back and forth against each other. It's just because at the end of the day, there's a reason why people buy vintage, and there's a reason why people buy the rebrand of the vintage. It's just like there's a reason why people buy, Mitchell and S versus the old fashioned or the Reebok or insert brand name here. It's just, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why people buy what they buy, and instead of just looking down at somebody because they buy maybe the cheaper option, or they buy the more expensive option. At the end of the day, it's your money. That I've always said this, it's your money. You should feel comfortable with whatever you want, and if some people just don't like it, well, that's their issue, I guess. But I just wish there was a lot less, oh, you buy this, therefore you're pretentious, or oh, you buy this, therefore you're cheap, or oh, you don't care about this community or this or that. There's just too much fighting and not enough common ground.
Well put.
I mean, the main thing I want to see, if we're talking about companies kind of remaking old stuff, I mean, as a Jersey head, I just want to see if they're going to remake old stuff, take more than 2 minutes of research and make it, as close to the real thing as you can. Because as Mitchell and Ness, I mean, we've talked about this 100 times, but they're just not. It's not. I consistently find errors in the jerseys they're making, and I just look at Bay Area stuff, so I don't even look at how they're messing up the other team stuff. So to me, it's just, if you're gonna remake something, I shouldn't be able to find constant errors with your jerseys by doing 2 minutes of research, and you guys are getting paid to do this and selling it for $300. That's it. Just make it right. That's really my thing, or as close as you can to making it right.
I've mentioned this, and I honestly don't know what the reasonings are. And I understand when I talk to people in the store, they don't always carry the great weight with the brand, but I've mentioned multiple times, hey, I mean, they have mentioned that they watch us and they view what we talk about with the brand and whatnot. And I always tell them, I've mentioned many a time, why not just use us like a focus group? Once a year, once a month, Zoom type of thing, and just pick some of the some of the big hitters in the group and say, all right, what would your opinions be? And it would just strictly be jerseys. What would your opinions be? And we're thinking about doing this and this, and but the reasoning is as always, I mean, it's always about the bottom dollar, and as long as they're making their money. The thing I think people also need to understand is Mitchell & Ness has made mistakes in the past too. This isn't just the new stuff. They've always done something.
I always feel like you're apologizing for Mitchell & Ness. I'm sorry to cut you off.
But Snacks, it's true. They have made mistakes in the past.
I completely understand and I agree with you.
But it is one of those things where if they would use us, as a focus group or as something like that, this is how things should be done. But that's just going to be one of those mysteries of life, and what can you do? I just don't think there's ever going to be pleasing everybody with no matter what it is. You can do things as perfect as you can, and I think there'll still be complaints about it. We do this in the jersey and in the clothing game, but it's the same across the board with anything. Out there, it could be food, it could be music, it can be movies, it could be, entertainment, anything. There's always going to be, you can't please everybody. And that's probably the most tricky thing when you're producing something to try to do. And maybe some companies just don't care. They're just cold that way, as long as they're making their bottom dollar, that's really all that matters. And, it's a shame because the people that at the end of the day who really truly care about, like the six of us here and the people in the comments and anyone watching, we're the ones that want to make a difference with it. And it kind of falls on deaf ears, and it's a shame.
Yeah. And then it feels like an abusive relationship.
Yeah,
bro, it really does. Like I said, I love Mitchell and Ness, but the only way we could talk, I'm not the type of person. Let's go boycott, but I can only do my own little boycott. I can only do what I can control. What I could do is control my money and not give him my money. Yes, it's hit or miss, whatever. But when they left that comment about the Dan Marino jersey, they didn't wear. Dan Marino didn't play that game. Yeah. Well, he was a Pro Bowler regardless that year. Like whatever. to me, it's like I'd rather them not answer the question, not respond, than to hear that shit, because that tells me the type of fucking people you got running there.
Yeah.
And I understand it's probably the people from the store. They shouldn't fucking say. They should not even answer, acknowledge me. The thing is, they never acknowledge me when it comes to like questioning their jerseys. The one time they acknowledge me, they say some stupid ass answer like that. That doesn't fucking make sense. Like I said, it only takes two minutes of fucking Google research, and you know, like to me, like you're making an excuse for it. Like who the fuck is gonna wear something? What happened to your creed? You know what I'm saying? We make authentic on whatever. That's your creed. You know what I'm saying? And you're making shit that players never even fucking wore. How did you know Marino was going to wear number 13 regardless? You didn't know that.
I mean,
you know
you
what
might
I'm
as well
saying? You
make
don't
a
know
Vince
what
Carter
Marino was
Warriors
going to
jersey.
wear. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those
And they
things
made it
that
for two
pisses me
players.
off. But when it comes to like vintage, like I wish Starter can come back and make, but we got so many monopolies that there's no way that a brand like Starter can come back and make these amazing jerseys again. My thing is, I agree with Bay. Fucking take these vintage products and make them as authentic as you can. You know what I'm saying? Pay respect to the starters and the pro lines and the Wilsons, and pay a little bit more respect to them, and come out with that product that makes you feel like you're wearing a starter throwback. And you know what I'm saying? Maybe you could cut less on the bullshit jerseys that you're making and really like focus on a set of jerseys and come out with this jersey and make it look fucking amazing.
I want to
You know what I'm
punch
saying?
the designer of those. Like, who comes up with these? Like, some of these designs are the most horrible things I've ever seen.
So real quick, J Mac, I wanted to actually ask you. I'm glad you're in here because I wanted to. You have a Miami Heat vintage hat. I'm just going back to the vintage topic because obviously you said that hat was the most that you spent on a hat, right? Was that true?
Yeah, by far.
Okay, so it's a vintage hat, right?
It's the only hat that I have that's that old. So yeah.
Okay, now did you buy that hat because it was vintage, or did you buy that hat because it was a rare style, or you couldn't find it anywhere else?
I never seen it before. I knew that it was vintage, and I liked the way it looked. It was a combination of everything.
So just to kind of put things in perspective, let's say Mitchell and Ness made that hat again, like recently.
I wouldn't.
I know they didn't.
I wouldn't have paid that price for a Mitchell and Ness hat.
No, but I mean, like, would you, if you had to pick and choose, like you had that hat available and that one that you have now, but you also have the Mitchell and Ness version, which is obviously gonna like only maybe a fraction of what you paid for that hat. Like, would you pick one or the other? Like, which one would you pick?
Yeah, that's tough. I guess I don't care about hats as much as jerseys, so I might pick the Mitchell and Ness. But if it comes to Mitchell and Ness and OG jersey, it's always going to be OG for me.
Well, see, for the jersey though, but I'm saying like for the hats, you're saying you'd go with
if they made it exactly the same, I might go with the Mitchell and Ness. I guess if it was exactly the same thing.
Okay, so but why though? What's your reasoning behind it?
Well, because that's kind of a crazy price for a hat. That's how I see it.
Keyword, you said crazy, the price.
Yeah.
And you know those are things that I was trying to get, because there's people on the flip side who will spend. I mean, you've sent me literally like pictures and posts of vintage wrestling t-shirts.
Yeah.
You sent me a shirt with the old school WWF logo, and that shirt was like hundreds of dollars, dude.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, who the heck would spend this much?
And this is a guy who prices fairly fair, if you know what I mean. He's pretty fair with his price.
So fair, we're talking about hundreds of dollars on a t-shirt. That's considered fair, right?
Yeah, it is.
But to most, it's crazy. So the whole topic of tonight was basically to understand how a person determines the price of vintage goods. You know what I mean? Because obviously the word vintage gets thrown around so often.
I don't know if you saw it. I put something about this guy. Let me see. I think his name is Vintage Rush on IG, something like that. I talked with him. Yeah, Vintage Rush. So he sells Marvel shirts, and like from what he told me, these things are so rare that makes them so expensive. Like there's literally only, you know, like even less than a gamer jersey. You know, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I guess, and if you have it in mint condition, or if you have it in very good condition, I guess
Right.
for the Marvel community or for the vintage T-shirt community, that's like us. Well, me only, I guess, buying a gamer.
That's what I'm saying though. There's even there's like a sub community of the jersey heads. So there's jersey heads that will only buy gamers. There's jersey heads that will only buy swingmans. There's jersey heads that will only buy authentics. You know, so it's like my point is like I was trying to really dissect this conversation and understand this idea of why vintage community, like the vintage community, frowns upon people who buy like modern day t-shirts. Like for instance, this Dare t-shirt that I bought this shirt for $10 at my local Marshalls, and I went on eBay and I was like looking at original Dare shirts, and some people were asking for like $150, $200 for this freaking t-shirt that's like made of 100% cotton, and it'll probably shrink if I wash it after like this wash. But like, it's just crazy to me to think, because like the general consumer, like my mindset is just like, dude, it's a no-brainer for me. I'm basically repping this shirt and this whole thing that it stands for, as opposed to me spending probably 500% more than what I spent on this. And I'm literally, I have the risk of that shirt tearing up, having moth holes, being faded, whatever, you know, XYZ factors there are that will make that shirt flop, but the people will view it as, well, it's vintage. It looks better that way.
For everyone, the vintage stuff isn't for everyone. I think it's always going to be a niche. I don't think, like Mr. Throwback, as successful as he's been, whatever, in his business, it's not as much of a draw. It's never going to be. It's as like new stuff, selling used stuff, even, and it's not going to be as popular. I think like the trendy stuff is going to be with what's coming out new, what's new, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, we'll never really have a definite answer, you know, but we'll have reasons to defend our answers, I guess, you know. And it's something that I've always been fascinated about. And again, I'm not knocking anybody for the, you know, shout outs to the viewers in here in the panel and also in the comments, but like, I'm not knocking anything. Again, I'm not knocking anybody because I've spent a lot of money on vintage goods. Like, I'm just throwing it out there. Like I have a lot of older vintage San Jose Sharks hats.
But you're kind of hardcore. Would you say you're kind of hardcore? I would. When I hardcore, I just mean like extremely passionate about it. Like most people are not going to be extremely passionate enough to want to justify spending a lot.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I've gotten to that point now, you know, where I don't pay resale on specifically on sneakers. I don't pay resale. Like I haven't paid resale in over a year, which old me, you know, like a couple years ago would have been like, that's crazy. Like my whole thought process is buy it now and spend $50 over retail, and you know, otherwise you're gonna have to spend probably $100 later down the road.
That actually makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but it doesn't, because like if you're looking at it like, well, how do I know? You know, how do I know this is the last? Maybe if this is a one-time thing,
yeah.
But then no, there's hundreds of jerseys out there. There's hundreds of sneakers out there that I'm gonna want, and that's just gonna pile up and pile up. Like if I looked at every single sneaker that I paid resale for, I would probably have a heart attack, because like everybody's like, oh, you know, you got heat, you know, you got all these. I'm like, yeah, but you don't realize that I had to pay a price on top of what I paid to get this. And people were just like, well, you got the shoe, right? I'm like, yeah, I got the shoe, but at what cost? It cost me like literally eating ramen for the next like week or so, you know, like to get this type of stuff. And it's like I've gotten to the point now where it's like what am I doing? I had to really reevaluate that. And it's almost like that with the jerseys too. You know, everybody's like, oh, well, you know, you don't need all these jerseys. That may be true, but at least I'm not paying an arm and a leg, you know, like it's
But
it's an
your
ended
logic,
question.
your logic, is almost, yeah. The thing is, you're talking about one pair. You're saying, okay, let's just example, a pair $600, and you're saying your logic is, well, I'm not paying that much for jerseys, but if you're getting one pair for 600, but you're buying 3 jerseys for 600. You know
See,
what I'm saying?
that's
Are you
and that's
just
another thing.
justifying it because you're getting more jerseys for your buck?
You're absolutely right, and that's something too where I'm trying to convince myself where like it's okay to buy this many jerseys. You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of those things where it's like a psychological thing almost. It's almost like you have this ingrained where you're trying to convince yourself that it's okay, but in reality, you're still spending money that doesn't have to go to this. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, what's causing more damage? Is it me paying resale on one specific item, or is it me buying this X, Y, and Z like type of thing? You know what I mean? Like, and it's like Max said, he said it's called justification. Like, yeah, you have to justify, what you're gonna spend your money on, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day is what it's the choices you make, because at the end of the day you don't have to. At the end of the day, we only have is necessities. Like, we don't need this stuff. We're doing it because we love it. We have a passion for it. We don't need 100 pair of sneakers. We only have 2 feet. You know what I'm saying? But we do it because it's like, yo, it's dope to do it. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with yourself and you're happy, you know what I'm saying. At the end of the day, if this shit ain't making you happy and you're buying shit just to buy shit, that's when you're fucking up. To me, in my opinion,
I've been fucking up for a long time. Then
no, you can't. The thing is, you can't live with regret, man, because you bought it for a reason. I know there's gonna be hit or miss, like like we was talking, it's gonna be hit or miss. Some things you buy because you got a good deal on it, but you really didn't want it, but you just got a good deal on it. And then you buy it and you have it in your collection. You're like, why the fuck do I have this jersey in my collection? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all, I don't know, man. Like I said, we're all in different levels of collecting right now, all of us. And to me, Rez, it seems like you're leaning towards something. You're not there yet. Maybe a year from now, you're gonna be there. But
married day, yeah, marriage.
With the shoes, I was just saying it kind of makes sense. Like the strategy. I don't do the shoe thing like that. Like, I don't go after those big shoes, whatever that everyone wants. But like, to pay 50 over, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Rather than pay 200 over later. It does make, as long as you're not buying too many of them.
Yeah,
like, that's what I'm saying though.
Yeah, as long as you limit how many that you're doing that with, but the strategy itself, it makes sense.
That's what I'm saying though, is that there's people out there who tell them that they talk to themselves and they say that, like, after having 10 pairs, the next thing you know, the 10 pairs become 20 pairs.
Yeah.
The 20 pairs become 40 pairs. The 40, and then it goes on. That's what I told myself, and I ended up having like almost 200 pairs at one point.
Wow, 200.
It was overwhelming. Yeah, no, it was really overwhelming. And I was like, yo, what the fuck am I doing? And you know what really hit me was when my older car broke down, and there was a point where I had no car.
Ooh.
And I was like, yo, what am I doing? Why am I spending all this money on these sneakers and I can't even afford a fucking car?
So you sold them?
Yeah, hell yeah, I sold them. I sold them in a heartbeat to get a new car. So my point is, though, people will put themselves in a situation where they can't enjoy their life because
there's a breaking point.
They're so well, not everybody knows that though. Not everybody has reached it. Everybody will reach it at a different point, or some people might not reach it at all. Wow. But for me, I had to literally ask myself, like, when is this going to end? When, or how can I do this without...
The thing is, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, my experience with me, my thing is like, okay, like, you enjoyed the hobby, you enjoyed it while it lasted, and sometimes you still hold on to those jerseys that you love and you have a memory of or something like that. But there's some jerseys in your collection that you'll fucking let that shit go quick in a heartbeat because you have no emotional attachment to it.
Yeah. See, Mac knows what's up. 140 pairs.
That's just a lot of shit.
Bro, I had 300 fucking pairs, and I felt like that shit was. And the good thing about our hobby is we can resell our shit. That's one good thing about our hobby.
That's exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That our shit got resale value.
The jerseys don't. That's what's so annoying to me. The jerseys don't.
Of just to say, but like also though, like Snacks, like what you're saying, like yeah, it does have resale value, but then it almost sounds like you're trying to convince yourself, well, that's what makes me okay to buy this.
No. I'm not saying that. Once you hit that breaking point, at least you could turn around. I'm not saying you're gonna get all your money back. At least you have something that you can like sell back. Like if you was into fucking something that really doesn't have resale value, if you was into like pots and pans, and like who the fuck are you gonna sell pots and pans to? At least sneakers, there's a community that you're part of that you can turn around. You don't have to. Maybe you lose a profit. You won't make a profit. Maybe you'll break even. Maybe you lose a little bit of money. But at least you know in your heart of heart that you could turn around, and that's what I did. I felt like that fucking wall sneakers that I had, it was cool. It looks cool on my YouTube background. But like laying there night by night and watching that fucking wall, I felt like that my room was getting smaller and smaller. And after realizing that these sneakers have a lifeline, jerseys don't have a lifeline. Sneakers have a lifeline. They're eventually gonna break on you. There's just rubber that's gonna fucking get old, get crusty, and it's gonna be. And I'm thinking like, what the fuck am I doing? I turned around, sold 80% of my sneakers. I don't give a fuck how much I sold it for. It's just whatever. I just needed it out of my house because it was fucking mentally fucking with me because I was sleeping in the room where all my sneakers were, and that was like a fucking wall that was like it was mentally fucking with me.
Wow.
I turned around and took that money, saved it, and I got myself a fucking car. I never bought myself a car in my life. You know what I'm saying? I went to the dealership and bought a car with a hobby that I had. Yes, I lost a lot of money. I didn't gain a profit from it. But at the end of the day, I have a fucking car that I bought with the hobby that I once loved. And I still love it. I enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, these sneakers, man, I said when it comes to sneakers, these sneakers, you're going to put them on one day and they're just going to crumble on you. And then that's when you realize I fucked up.
See, and that's my mentality. And I'm not, again, I have to keep stressing this because I'm not trying to knock on any like the vintage community, but that's my mentality with the vintage like t-shirts. Like, yo, those shirts are old, you know, they're faded. They could probably, you know, like have loose thread that's weaker. It's just so many different factors. Print might crack, you know, things like that. Like to me, like it doesn't, personally for me, it doesn't make sense to spend that amount of money for something when you could get something that is more recent, you know, same design, it's officially licensed for literally a fraction of that.
I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in your whole logic. Why do you own a 1985 Michael Jordan 1s?
Well, I mean, for that, I mean, obviously you guys know the reason. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like has a personal meaning to me. So I get
so
that.
Why I'm not saying you're knocking the vintage guy, then why knock the guy that wants the shirt that has the holes in it and is cracked and his stuff, but yet you have a sneaker that you can't even wear. Probably can wear, but you have a sneaker from 1985, but it has a meaning for you. You know what I'm saying? It means something to you. But my girl will probably look at you like, why you got that old ass sneaker in your room? Like, you paid that? How much you paid for that? I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I understand it because I understand as a person that loves sneakers too. I understand it, but your girlfriend or your mother or your dad will look at that like, why you got that old ass sneaker in a case? You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, no, for sure. And again, like I said, it's one of those things where everybody has their way of defining what the price point is to them. You know, one thing I will mention too is man, I just drew a complete blank. It was like at the tip of my tongue. I forgot what I was gonna say. Shit.
It was a lie.
I totally forgot. I had it like right here, dude. It was literally about to come out. I totally forgot what it was. All right. Well, look, guys, it's been almost 3.5 hours here. I know it's getting late in some of your guys' areas, but I do want to ask the room one more question before I start wrapping things up. Let me highlight this comment real quick. Big Slim says, same 2013 bought my car with my baseball collection. So, look, man, we don't realize sometimes we don't realize how much our stuff's worth. I mean, and sometimes we do realize what it's worth, but we don't want to move it. You know what I mean? I don't want to sell any of my stuff, but I reached a point where I had no other option at the time to make that financial, purchase unless I got rid of some of this stuff. And I'm glad I did, because I'm in a better spot now. And next year is going to be an even bigger challenge, because I'm really going to have to shift my my purchases as a collector, and really, be smarter with my choices of what I purchase and stuff like that, regardless of whether it's a good deal or whatever the case may be, But I guess, like, for anything that you guys want to throw out there, like, in terms of collecting, because we're all collectors here in some way, shape, or form, but, like, would you guys place your collection, or would you label your collection as, or you as a collector, would you label yourself as a vintage, I guess, collector in the game, whether it's like the jersey game, the hat game, the Mighty Mouse, collection game, or even the game worn jersey game, or the Ebbets flannel game? Like, would you guys consider yourself as a collector to be like a vintage collector? Not, you don't necessarily have to collect vintage things, but it's more so of like.
I'm gonna respond, and I'm gonna leave, and I'm sorry that once again, Rez, thank you again. I'm sorry if I talked a lot and shit like that, but this is just great conversation. I like to add my 2 cents. I feel like the vintage game, like, the reason there's a vintage game is because all these products that we love takes us back to a certain area in our lives. There's a reason Mighty Mouse is wearing a Fred Barnett jersey, because that's his first favorite player, made him an Eagles fan and stuff like that. That's the reason we all collect for some reason. You have Dragon Ball Z shit because that's something you grew up with, and that shit brings you back to a certain place. It all brings it back to a fucking happy place when it comes down to it. And that's the reason I love my vintage shit. I got a fucking Miss Pac-Man fucking arcade in my house because I love Miss Pac-Man. It takes me back to a happy place. And sometimes the stresses of life and the stresses of work, you know what I'm saying? You come home and I just want to fucking play Miss Pac-Man for 10 minutes. If that shit brings me joy, it brings me joy. If I go on eBay and spend a couple bucks on a fucking jersey, if that brings me joy, it brings me joy. At the end of the day, man, we all collect vintage because it takes us back to a great place or a great memory in our lives. That's why I believe that's why the reason we even collect. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to our past and older stuff and shit like that, man. With that being said, I appreciate everybody, man. Thank you again, Rez. Dope ass live. I know sometimes we get off topic, but I think we get off topic because it's a great conversation. It's flowing. You always want to keep that flow going, man. So I appreciate everybody on here, man. Good night, all that good stuff, bro.
All right, bro.
Sure, bro.
You snacks.
Man. What about the rest of you guys? Like, how do you guys view yourself as a collector?
For me, I would say that I'm a vintage collector just because I like getting, when I can, the if it's not a like a team issued or game used, I like to try to get the jersey from that actual era, not a Mitchell Ness if possible. Only because for me, I know that it's the best chance of getting it as close to what was really. I mean, obviously, if it's game used or team issued, it is what was on the field. But if I get the Antoine Jameson jersey that I had in the video with you, Resurrection, like if they Mitchell Ness remade that jersey, I'd still rather have that one, the vintage one, just because I know it's gonna most likely be closer to what was actually on the court than what Mitchell Ness is gonna do. So that's why I would consider myself vintage, and I prefer the vintage jerseys over the newer remix.
Gotcha.
I mean, shit. Even with Mitchell and Ness, you look like you had the video. I think it was Earl Campbell, right?
Yeah.
You had like the newer version and the older. So even Mitchell and Ness themselves, the older ones, when you look at the older run ones, they're closer to what was on the field than even the newer Mitchell and Ness. So even when it comes to Mitchell and Ness, like the Deion Sanders, I jumped on that because it was a career run from like 06 or 05.
Yep.
So even within that, I just knew it was going to be better than the ones they make now. So because of that, I would say I'm vintage collector.
Got it. Mighty, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely consider myself a vintage guy. I mean, just the fact that, I'm choosing to wear the Kelly green colors tonight instead of the night green colors, that kind of shows that, but also that um I think it just it goes with everything. It's like Snack says, it puts you in a happy spot. Like, this is why we do what we do, and even in another aspect, like a couple weeks ago, I went with Slim. We saw the new Ghostbusters movie, and we both felt we had to watch this together because that was a movie that meant a lot to us from our youth. And I told him from the day I found out that movie was being made, I said, Slim, we have to see this movie together. And I sitting there in the theater, and I just had this grin on my face watching this movie because it does it that the original movie means a lot to me. It was one of my first favorite movies, one of the first movies that I can really remember really getting into. And seeing the old characters and just the old homages to that old movie, it just brought it all back to me, and that's why it's a feeling you have. It's like, why do these certain hats mean more than these other ones? The style, the shark tooth hat, like you showed, the like I talked about, that draft day hat, the diamond hat, the pinwheel style hats that I love so much. It's just because that's what I remember from being younger and getting and wearing. And the same thing with the jerseys, the same thing with anything else, any kind of nostalgia. If they made a Mighty Mouse movie, I'd be one of the first people there to go see it. It's something that makes me happy because it made me happy when I was younger. And you never stop being drawn to that stuff. That's the thing. It's like you think you get to a certain age and it doesn't go away. All these, and the cool thing about today is they're bringing all this stuff back into pop culture. They're bringing back all these heroes, superheroes, and stuff from back in the day. And there's a huge place for it, right? They're bringing back various things: Cobra Kai, Ghostbusters, the He-Man series that was on Netflix, right? All these different things from when I was younger, and now I'm getting to see this again. And they're bringing it back for the youth, but it's for people like me that like, oh, this is my wheelhouse. Like Transformers, all these different things that I played with as a kid, toys. Now they're on the big screen. Now they're in this. Now they're in that, and it brings it all full circle. But you never stop loving it. You can repress it so much. I haven't collected Mighty Mouse in years. I just haven't. I've been more about the jersey and the hat. But I guarantee you, movie comes out, I'm going to get all giddy and excited because that's my guy, and there he is back in the mainstream again. And yeah, I'll probably grab a few items, for the movie. But it's something that's in you and it never leaves. And that's why when you're a collector, you're looking for that more older stuff too, because this is what you remember. So this is what maybe got you into sports. This is what really brought those moments together. So this is what you look for, and that's why I think all of us collectors are vintage guys, because that's what we have. We get the new stuff too, but we're always more interested and eager in trying to find those old gems, trying to find those things that had some meaning to us back in the day. And it's a way to get them. I always say too is like some of these things I couldn't get back in the day because the parents were like, yeah, no, that's too expensive. So now that I have a chance at them now, maybe there is that old jersey, authentic jersey that I couldn't get back in 1992, but now I can get it today. Or maybe Mitchell and Ness, an older run thing that I would like to, I'm able to grab that. That's the type of stuff that we do look for. So yeah, I would definitely consider myself a vintage guy, 100%, and I will never have a problem in saying that. No matter how people want to try to convey it or to twist things and to do this and that, I know I should stay in my lane, and as long as I'm happy doing something, I'm going to continue to do it. and Lord knows I do it to excess. So, so that's my take on it.
For sure.
POB, what up, man?
Yo, what's going on, guys? How's it going?
We're going, man. It's pretty good so far, man. We really dissected this topic tonight, man, and really got down to the nitty and gritty, man. But did you want to add anything, man? Because we're kind of finishing up here, but obviously the topic tonight is vintage community, man. So I basically went through 9. There was a post that I reposted, or not reposted, but I was reading off of, and it was 9 reasons why bootleg tees are ruining the vintage community. So I don't know if you're familiar with bootleg tees, but
yes, I am, especially with bootleg Gucci. That's been a craze going on lately.
Right. So I mean, like, what? So just to kind of like throw it in the air, like not just bootleg shirts, but like I'm talking about like stuff that's reprinted, like.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, for example, this Dare shirt that I'm wearing right now, you know, obviously this Dare has been around for a long time, but I mean, like, this shirt was reprinted and it was resold at stores, like major retailers and stuff like that. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, compared to like, you know, even like with hats, like vintage hats compared to like modern replicated styles of the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's become very saturated, just like everything else. Like, especially like the vintage tees, like you go to Marshalls and stuff like that, you'll find like the old rap or like movie tees there. You know what I mean? And as far as hats, I know Mitchell and Ness has been recreating the old sports special tees and the vintage like AJD hats.
Right.
And honestly, it's making it a try. I don't think they're intentionally doing this, but they're sort of diminishing the vintage game, and which I really don't like. Because I recently, like I said, I got into vintage just a few years ago, and you know I've really come to truly appreciate, you know, the older things, why it was just so dope back then, and why it's even doper now, because it was just so original, it was so creative. Because you're not gonna see like super dope styles like the splashes, like shark tooths, you know, like the lasers. Like you don't necessarily see those style of hats anymore. So I'm just, you know, I just have a really deep appreciation for it, and I get what they're trying to do. It's trying to bring stuff back, but as we all know, with current stuff, with anything, it's just not the same.
But what I mean, so like, how though is it not the same? Because like, for example, I'm gonna use Mitchell and Ness as an example, and basically, you know, Mitchell and Ness is making older styles, or they're remaking. Currently making like styles of the old, so I'm like they're making old like logo specialties, like designs and you know everything like that. But how do you guys feel about that?
I mean, I don't mind it as long as it's done tastefully, but it's just that, you know, just the quality isn't there. Like it's more like bumpy. You can tell they're using more, like it's more factory made as it was like kind of hand sewed a bit. Like for example, in my store, I work at Pro Image. We recently just sold out of the old 1996 Lakers draft hat, the one that Kobe wore when he got traded from the Hornets to the Lakers. And we had it in an off-white colorway. And I was like, oh man, I just don't know. I really just don't know if I really enjoy this. But no, that same day they sold out immediately because it was like the style of that Kobe wore, you know, when he got drafted in. And I understand it. Like I said, I understand it, but it's like, you know, like I said, it's just not. Doesn't have that same, how can I explain it? Like that same like spirit, that same, you know, appreciation. I just can't really put into words, but it's just not the same, and you can just tell it's just not the same.
I got you.
It is tough though, because they do bring everything back, it seems. I mean, I just talked about with movies, they do recycle a lot of things, and some for the better and some for the worse. But I can understand why Mitchell Ness took the route they did in trying to bring these things back, because they've always been about nostalgia. They've always been about recreating things. Even the older stuff, you know, you had the older clothing, you had recreations of clothing from back in the day. So this isn't something new. That they might be doing it a little more, than they used to, just because there's more product that they do. But myself, it doesn't bother me as much, just because it gives me a chance at some of the stuff that normally might be a little more difficult to attain, and then seeing the prices of the vintage stuff like hats and such, it does get a little difficult to justify wanting to spend upwards of $100 on that older Lakers hat where Mitchell Ness did it, and I can go to the store and pick it up.
Absolutely.
I also think it kind of raises awareness in a way to the older stuff, because then people might see it and they might go hunting around, to see where they can find the older vintage, hats and shirts and stuff. So I think it kind of goes both ways, but it's a double-edged sword, because I can understand from someone who might be selling the older stuff where it might hurt them, because you can just go on mitchellness.com and or Fanatics or wherever and find these things, and this, and they're having a 20% off deal. Okay, well, there it is,
Yeah.
But again, I don't speak as a seller, I speak as a consumer. So I don't kind of live in that selling world. So I'm just happy, hey, if I can find it, I'm glad to have it. That's why I got the Hornets and Lakers hats that I got on Black Friday, because it was the Kobe. It was the two hats that Kobe wore on 96 draft day. So that's why I went with those two, and the Sixers for AI. So that's why that kind of had meaning to me. Where those hats may have been otherwise very difficult to attain, all three, I was able to do it in one foul swoop, and but I understand it. Like I see it from both sides, because there's things that are done, recreations of when I was younger in pop culture, and it's like I'm looking at, I'm like, yeah, why did they have to do this?
No, it's understandable, man. Like I said, people, sometimes they can't find it and they just want to bring it back. Like I said, totally understandable. Like, I don't necessarily have a giant problem with it, but it's just, when you have that older style and still pretty crispy, it's just much more special. That's just my.
It is,
for sure,
and it's also because you wore that when you were younger too. So, this is what I had. The shark tooth hat back in the day, and it was Logo Athletic or Sports Specialties.
Yeah.
It just had that look. You wore it in class. You got noticed by people. Oh, that hat. Yeah. So that always is going to bring those good vibes back. And when you see the recreations of it, it is one of those things where it's like, they have to do that. There's vintage ones out there, but it as we know, it's all about the old mighty dollar, and these companies are going to continue to do it. I mean, I remember when who was it that made there was the NFL wore the shark tooth hat on field, in the somewhere in the 2000s. I remember that hat came back, and
it was it was more like the adjustable style with the Velcro back. I remember that.
And they also had a fitted one too, but they had a couple reincarnations of it, and the splash one too made a comeback. But anything to make money, that's what it is.
Sure. Yeah, man. And speaking of vintage, recently I just picked up something today at the thrift store.
Oh yeah, what did you get?
It's an old Nightman Lakers Kobe Bryant yellow home jersey.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, I picked up an old Kobe. Yeah, an old Kobe Nike Swingman in a size extra large. And I was shocked when I saw that out in the field, man. It was a great moment. That's kind of why I love thrifting. It's fun doing stuff like that.
So you found it thrifting. So do you mind telling us how much you spent for it?
$10.
Oh.
Again. Yeah. One of the pros of thrifting, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's good.
That's one of the things that I love about thrifting too. But see, like, the thing that gets me every time is that, obviously you bought that Kobe jersey for $10, right? But if somebody other than yourself bought it, who was a vintage reseller, they'd probably be selling that thing for like $200 or $300, whatever the price is.
I know that. Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
that's basically going to be a $290 profit for them if they sold it. They paid $10 like you.
Yeah.
And so my thing is,
Yeah.
personally, like it for people who don't know how much they spent on it, obviously they're gonna be like, oh yeah, for sure. I say this all the time. There's a seller on eBay who I don't know if they sold the item. I haven't seen it in a while, but they were selling a Kevin Garnett authentic Timberwolves Adidas jersey. I believe it was the black color or the white one. I forget. But they had it for sale, and it had a tag on it from I think it was Goodwill or something for like $20, and the seller wanted $399.99 for that jersey. So obviously he didn't pay that price.
No.
So that's my thing. That's my gripe about it. It's like, if you're gonna sell, I understand. You gotta make your money, but I mean, come on, be realistic. Like,
absolutely
crazy to me.
Well, not so much realistic, just like be reasonable with it.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what the scary thing is, though, somebody probably might pay that. Maybe the reason why they priced it at that is because they looked on eBay and they looked at how much current market value was selling for that jersey, and somebody paid that money. But
exactly,
it's like, you know, it moves the needle, like you said, Mighty. But it's one of those things that make it just, I don't get it.
The thing, and I know J-Mac mentioned in the comments this guy earlier, Hustler Hacks.
Yeah.
And the thing, I always got so frustrated with Hustler Hacks because he would do these videos at his Ross's and TJ Maxx's, and they would be chock full of like authentic LeBron jerseys and this jersey and that jersey, right? And I would be like, oh, so they're out there they're at Ross, you know, whatever, like, and not like the current, but like his Cavs jersey,
right?
With the Goodyear, you know, ad sponsor and all that. And I would go to like my Ross, and it'd be like this, nothing, cobwebs, you know, there, and I'm like, damn it, how does this guy keep finding this? Every time I go to my Ross, it's like you know, Under Armour shirts. And you know, these different things. You're like, when do I find a LeBron jersey in my Ross?
You know, I totally get what you mean, man. I totally get what you mean, because there's another guy who I follow and who I see on YouTube. Rez, I think we talked about him before. His name is Paul Cantu.
Yes,
and
you were
mentioning him earlier.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, he finds the craziest stuff too, and oh man, and like I said, he's kind of like who's like a giant YouTuber. He's kind of like the PewDiePie of thrifting. Like, he's super famous for like doing his thrifts, and like I said, he's super huge. But there's another guy that I follow in Texas, and like he's the kind of guy who I would want to thrift with. Like, he's humble, he knows what he's looking for, but he always sells his stuff for reasonable prices. Look him up. His name is That Dallas Thrifter. And he has an eBay page too, and he sells stuff for very reasonable prices.
Yeah.
Like, if you look up, very reasonable. I think you'll like his page. But yeah, I like his videos a lot, and he finds a lot of good stuff, because Texas is one place I want to go thrifting, because they have damn near everything in Texas.
They seem to, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they have just chock full of all sorts of stuff.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I just love, like, I love it when people find deals. But on the pendulum side, or like on the other side of the you know, the spectrum and stuff, like I hate the fact that there's people out there that are taking advantage of people who don't know, you know, the what they're getting themselves into. Like, I don't know, it's really weird, because I don't want to, you know, obviously without that there wouldn't be no these buyers or these sellers would not be able to make a living off this and stuff. And I respect the hustle, don't get me wrong, I respect it 100%. I guess it's to me, it's more so of the principles of how they sell it to people. Like, you buy something for $5 and you tell the person, well, I paid, you know, $30 for this and I'm selling it for $50, so I'm giving you a deal. Like, I understand, you know, it's a business and you got to do what you got to do to make the money. But I don't know, there's just something that just doesn't sit well with me with when it comes to the integrity of these resellers, so to speak. So I don't know.
That's the thing also, because they'll like show what they paid, and then they go on their page and it's like, triple, quadruple the amount, like, oh, look, people like for $5. And then they have it on their page for like $100 or something. Like,
Yeah, like don't make it
Really?
obvious. I mean, come on, we're not stupid,
right?
but it
I think the other thing we need to understand about
man.
these thrifters on YouTube is that that's all they do. They go to these places and they know when the best time to go to these places are, right? When the new stuff comes out and they're like right there. And they probably film for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And then they do all the editing. So it makes it look like easy for I found this. But how many places they went that they had misses,
right.
That's the other thing too about these thrifters.
Yeah, it's interesting too. When I went to my local Sabres, I was wearing my Michigan State Carl Banks jersey that day.
Yeah,
and I walk in there because my fiance wanted to go there to donate some clothes and just kind of see around, And there's this guy. He's wearing, I don't know what he was wearing, but obviously he was wearing vintage clothing, and he had a shopping cart. And he kind of looks at me in the same, the corner of his eye. And I kind of look back at him, and he goes, "I gotta watch out for people like you."
You Warrior fans. That's
so I was
That's
trying to figure out, like,
who thinks way too much about his thing.
Yeah, well, because I was trying to figure it out. I just kind of chuckled a little bit, and he was like, "Yeah," he's like, you guys are here, he's like, "We're competing," And and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, dude, I'm just looking, man. I'm not, And they had some nice Warrior shirts there, like the shirts that they give out at their arenas during games. So
those are everywhere.
Yeah, I picked up a couple of those and stuff, but the guy was like, he was like scoping me. Like I just saw him like every aisle that I was going to, he was like looking at me. What am I gonna
Strippers, we call them vultures. Like they just want to watch what we're doing, and then if they kind of notice what they see before we do, that's when they'll swoop in. You know what I mean? Yeah, those vultures, man, they can be hectic, and sometimes, from what I heard, and never experienced happen, it can get ugly with them, especially if you find some super duper heat.
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
he's the one with the shopping cart, though.
Yeah. I wasn't planning on buying anything. I was literally there just for the ride, for the company, and I was like, yeah, I'll just walk around, and then that's when I found that SaberCats hat, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And the guy, obviously he was a vintage like reseller, but he wasn't really specializing in like the sports stuff.
Yeah,
he was more so into like it looked like he was into like the Disney, the old Marvel vintage shirts, the Simpsons, like all the older stuff.
Yeah.
I was just looking around.
Their own specifications.
Huh?
Everybody has their own specifications of what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So, obviously, but he saw me as somebody like trying to take what he's looking for, because he's like, I gotta watch out for people like you. And I was just like, what does this mean? What am I doing? That like I wasn't holding a gun to your face. I wasn't holding a knife, like I was just literally like, skimming through the racks, and he was just like so defensive about it. So I mean, he's one person out of like thousands and thousands of vintage hunters out there, man. But anyways, it's an interesting topic, man. So I'm gonna call it a night, guys. This has been a very fun live. I love the fact that everybody kind of had their own. The Bay Area says you're dangerous. Right? But yeah, man, I want to thank everybody in the panel that tuned in tonight, and everybody that was live in the chat rooms. For my two guests that are on live with me right now, Mighty Mouse Fan 78, check him out. He has a great YouTube channel. Does a lot of collecting of jerseys and Mighty Mouse and other sports memorabilia. So give him a follow. Check out his channel.
And someday Slim's got to put respect on Festive's name. I'm going to tell you that right now. We saw that. Don't think Festive didn't notice that comment earlier there either there, Slim. Festive let you know that you keep delivering that food there, big man. You better bring some eggs. All right.
All right.
For sure. Love your channel, man. I love the fact that you do in the life. That's a really great and
I
popular.
just recorded a little.
Love
for
it.
tonight,
Love it.
So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I can't wait to see the next episode.
Yeah.
And then on my far right, POV One Full. You just recently did a video. I still have to check it out, but check him out. He's obviously a collector like us, jersey collector, vintage game collector. Stays out in Hawthorne. Sorry, I didn't mean to put your location out there like that, but
man, bring them on. I'm ready.
That Thrifter guy, he's gonna know now.
So great. Yeah, he's a great dude. Check him out. Subscribe to his channel. And everybody else, man, that tuned in tonight. J-Mac, Throwback King, KBM, Bay Area Throwbacks, who I just recently did a collab with the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that was a great.
Oh, love that vid. Loved it.
That was an interesting video because actually the original plan was we were gonna try and go to a Sharks game because I think they were playing the Senators that night, and I just got off of work. Like it was late. It was like 7:30 or I don't remember what time it was, and I was like, well, I still want to meet up. So he was like, all right, well, I'm by this area. I was like, okay, I know where that is. And I just told him, I was like, you want to film a video? And he's like, yeah, I'm down. So I literally we went out to eat, got my tripod, set it up, boom. And then that's kind of how it panned out.
Those are the best ones, though. It's just the unplanned ones. Here, let's just do it. Those, honestly, they make some of the best vids.
Yeah. It turned out great. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be ridiculous, the fact that because there was people literally like serving us on our table, and then we had people that were sitting on our left side, and they were kind of just like, what, these guys are talking about sports and jerseys, and there's what are they doing, and it was just like one of those candid moments, where it worked out, and then we definitely plan to do more videos like that in the near future, but that's pretty much all I have for you guys tonight, man. One more time, if you guys are new to the channel, because I know there's 8 people in here still, I do these live streams every Wednesday from at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's new topics every week. I try to make it fresh, try to talk about different things. I am also open to hearing your guys' thoughts and opinions. If you want me to talk about something specific that I feel like would work great for the channel, for the topic, shoot it into my DM. Shoot it to me on Instagram. You could leave it in the comments here on YouTube or on Facebook or Twitter. Follow my handles. But you could find all that information in the description of this video right here. But you guys have any final comments, thoughts that you want to add?
I would just say to anyone out there, just follow your passion and whatever the passion leads you. Just have fun with it. There's way too much, I think, saying, well, you have to do things a certain way, this, that, or the other. Just find your way. Find your way with it and have fun. At the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. And being in communities like this where you get to share the passion with good people. And, just do that. Don't worry about the outside noise.
Yeah. No, couldn't have said it any better, man.
Absolutely. Just do what you like to do. Don't worry about it. Like Mighty said, don't worry about anybody else's opinions and stuff like that. Do what makes you happy. Do what gives you some sort of fulfillment in you, whether it's collecting or and whether it's collecting jerseys or vintage or bottle caps, you name it. Any sort of productive hobbies that put a smile on your face, just do them. There's no need, to think about other people's perspectives or opinions. Like I said, what matters is it's your life, and make the most out of it.
Yep, preach, man, preach.
Just be careful in thrift stores with people with shopping carts. Apparently,
I got this. I'm good. I don't need no damn shopping cart.
For sure, guys. All right, man. Well, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys all next week, man.
Take care, everyone.
Great night, guys.
Have a good one.